Happy Mother's Day, everyone. This is Dan with the Spiritual Underground Podcast. Sit down at the table a little early this morning, waiting on my guest to arrive. I'll get more to that in a little bit. We'll tell you this is a primarily 12-step based recovery podcast. We do explore other areas of recovery. I am interested in all ways that people grow and become closer to the person they were meant to be, finding their true voice and their true self along that path. Once again, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Woke up this morning thinking about mine. My mother passed away 4 years ago, Super Bowl Sunday. And, of course, that day changes every year, but that's what I kind of have mentally attached it to. That day, a friend of mine, Happy, gave me a rose quartz angel, about 3 inches tall. Take it with me lots of places. It's out here on the podcast table with me today. Loved my mom dearly, as most of us do, right? Most of us miss her. It's interesting to go back and explore some of that and what I picked up, and as I worked through these 12 steps and peeling back that onion and see what I picked up from her, both the good and the not so good. It's kind of one of the things that's been hitting me is this judgment thing lately, and I don't want to put labels on that thing, but today Mom's passing has. I've always been close to my dad, and him living here with me is basically a result of Mom's passing and him not wanting to be home alone, and careful consideration and discussions with my sponsor and talking with Dad and making sure we had things in a way that we could work this out. I get to spend lots of time with him today, and we sit down here in the wood shop Friday night, just a couple nights ago, till like 2:30 in the morning. Of all things, I've got a large liquor cabinet project going on. Really nice piece. And he was out here piddling on some other things and around to give me a hand when I need one. As far as that judgment goes, I seen something people posted on Facebook the other day about some meme with a grocery cart. And the bottom of it said something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, that you are a worthless human being if you do not return your grocery cart to the store. I think, wow, man, is that what it's based on today? Is that the judgment that makes me good or bad? I don't deserve to share oxygen with you if I choose not to wear a mask. If I don't follow the stay-at-home orders. I'm an inconsiderate person and don't deserve to be here. I got mask shamed the other day by a guy going into the Home Depot. Just an interesting thing. Who knows what this pandemic thing is going to bring, why it's here. I got swept up into some of the conspiracy theory stuff. I don't know. There's something in my core nature. I don't know if it was learned. It certainly wasn't learned from my parents. I didn't get it from them. That I kind of will fall for the conspiracy stuff once in a while. And frankly, I do believe that just like when we're getting ready to get 3 flakes of snow one night, the storm team comes in and tells us to buy bread and milk. I think there's a little bit of that going on with this whole pandemic thing. I think it's a chance to sensationalize some stuff and sell advertising on news channels. I can't go get my hair cut, but those people sure seem to be able to get theirs cut. They seem to be doing just fine. The people, it's almost like Truman Show, right? They come on TV and tell us about the gloom and doom and show us the masks and the gurneys going in and out of the hospitals, and meanwhile they're polished behind their stuff. And matter of fact, I saw a guy the other day that looked like he had some kind of really designer face mask on. And I don't mean one of these ones that people are making today. There's a lot of cool masks around. But I mean like one was made to match his tie, and that's really interesting to me to watch this reality show play out here around this pandemic. What else is going on? I want to apologize for missing last week's episode. There was I had a couple guests on the hook or lined up, and they both panned out, and I just didn't feel up to doing like another one of my monologue things to make my commitment. I made a commitment at the beginning of this thing when I started it and kicked it off in January 2019 to put new content out every Sunday. And last Sunday was the first time I failed to meet that commitment. One of the things I've learned in recovery is that I don't have to be perfect anymore, and I can fall to that. I can follow that perfection thing pretty hard. I do it. It actually, it works out really well for me in some areas, like that cabinet sitting right there that I'm working on. My perfectionist in that makes it end up being a really nice piece of furniture and a nice piece. But in other areas, I can beat myself up on not being perfect. In that same regard, I'll just be honest, I've relapsed on the nicotine. A few weeks ago, I was heading to a job. It was outside. It was a nice day. And I went in the store to get a drink and thought, you know what? I'm going to make a buy. And so, once again, I know this ain't good for me. It's probably not the best time in the world to be doing that. I don't smoke. I dip. I know it's nasty. I don't know what to say about it other than to admit that I have succumbed to that chemical dependency once again. We'll see where time plays out on that. It's interesting, too, the judgment and the shaming. And, I've got friends in the nicotine quitting world who still support me no matter what. And I got others who I guess you could say want to shame me for it. And I watch people die in recovery all the time because of the shame of relapse. And I'm really trying to fight that effort for people who, there's some things about when you're not ready, you're just not ready. But and I don't know how that story plays out. Everybody has their own path. There's something come up and got in a little discussion, fell into another hole. I got to stay out of that. Like the same thing with the conspiracy theory stuff and the social media stuff. I do a really good job of staying away from it and detaching and just scrolling on through. But one of the things said something about relapse and recovery, and the fact of the matter is, I believe, my judgment, is that most people do have to bounce in and out a few times before they finally get it. Want to try to find the loopholes first, and the loopholes always seem to fail. And who knows about that? Same thing with the rest of the stuff. You get yourself up and you begin again. That's a Baron Baptista yoga teacher that I trained. His system that I'm involved in says begin again. Another thing I read by Ernie Kurtz said, something paraphrased that you fail, and the thing is you get back up and you brush yourself off again, and it's the thing isn't that you failed, the thing is that you keep trying. So I'll get back off of this stuff, I suppose. I tried quickly, and that didn't work. My mindset just wasn't there. I wasn't really wanting to quit. I was wanting to quit because I wanted other people to think I could, not because I was doing it for myself. First time around when I quit for almost 2 years, or over 2 years. That time I did it for me and nobody else, and this time around thinking I was going to do it for somebody else didn't work. Enough of that. Big news today, though. Two things here. Guess they go parallel. Tomorrow, May the 11th, is my sponsor, Christopher's 36th anniversary of sobriety, of recovery. We could draw a distinction there, but I won't, because he'll say that he really didn't get the traction until he was around 18 years sober, that he found this juice that he so graciously passed on to me, and that I get to pass on to others. But tomorrow is his 36 years. Congratulations, Christopher. I love you to death. Our friendship and means everything to me, our relationship. And I can't say enough about it. Saved my life and allowed me to do things that I would have never dreamed possible. This podcast is one. I'm sitting out here making furniture. My backyard wood shop is another. Being available for my father up there is another. Being a father to my children is another. So many things going on in my life that the precipice of all that was, and the catalyst was meeting Christopher. Go out on a little limb here. I'm pretty sure this is still true. My brother has the same sobriety date and will celebrate 1 year tomorrow. Congratulations to you. I love you to death too. I prayed that this would happen, and just proud of you, and both of you actually him and his wife share sobriety dates, and that's just a cool thing. Again, I'll go out on a limb and say I don't know that would have happened had Christopher not come into my life. I don't know that. They probably would have found their own path, but it's interesting, these chain of events, the ripple when you throw the pebble in the pond and what it can do. So on that note, Christopher's going to run a special promotion on Kindle. The Kindle version of 12-Step Spiritual Recovery on Amazon is going to be free for 1 week, starting May 11th, his 36th sobriety date. So if you go out to Amazon and find the Kindle version of 12-Step Spiritual Recovery by James Christopher Cone, I will repeat that, 12-Step Spiritual Recovery by James Christopher Cone. Watching the 12 steps work in people's lives, these tools, and to swing back to the pandemic, I would say, my last 5 years of recovery somewhat felt like practice for this moment right here, how to survive and walk through this bullshit in a healthy manner. I can hang that on the hook of 12-step recovery, because practicing these principles and doing this deal and staying in one day at a time, and the compassion for others that I've learned, and all that is hinged on those principles. So today, I put a little post out the other day that, the 12-step spiritual recovery, promoting it a little bit and popped it out there. I have a Facebook page for it, and you can go to 12stepspiritualrecovery.com to learn more about it. Contact me. I'll be happy to share with you. We have meetings going on. There's Zoom meetings, so now you can, from anywhere in the world, you can attend one of these meetings and give a little sniff out to see what's going on. I guaranteed people, I got this off of a guy about meditation. He said 10% better. Guaranteed people their life would be 10% better if they practice these principles and do this work. Frankly, I think the rate of return is much greater than that. But I can promise 10%. But the fact is, you got to work it. You're not going to get any gains by not going to the gym. You have to go do something. You have to put some effort into it. You do have to take some action. Like Paul Hederman says, we are ultimately action figures. And if we're not taking some actions, we're not going to see results. So check that out. Free Kindle version for 1 week only, starting May 11th, 2020. Get that from Amazon. I'll also add, too, that it's probably easier to actually do the work out of the book so that you can highlight stuff and put placeholders in it and things like that. But I have the Kindle version in my phone and on my devices. So, and it is a very handy way. You can also, I have the first 3 chapters I've read into audio on the Spiritual Underground podcast, so you can find those. I'm contemplating whether if I could do another chapter. I thought about doing another chapter last week when I missed an episode, but blew that off. Allowed myself to be imperfect. Totally juiced because this weekend or next weekend, this is a Sunday, so Friday I'm going to hold my 7th annual, and actually it's been more than, this is the 7th one. I'm starting to do them annually. For the first couple of years, I did these retreats twice a year. I did one in the spring and one in the fall, but that was a little much, and it kind of got burnt out a little bit. It seems more special when you just do it once a year. Doing that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm limiting the attendance and keeping it relatively small. Most time I opened it up to everyone. Apologies to those out there that, kind of kept it in my sponsorship circle for the most part, and a few new guys and some people that are close to me. And that's just what I decided to do. Again, so 15 or so of us going to go down. weekend weather looking perfect. Food coordinators lined up, allowing people to help me more and more every time I do these. I've asked some friends of mine to help facilitate some of the meetings we have during it, and it's always just a great time, and it's a special place. And again, another thing that I absolutely would not be doing had the 12 steps and my sponsor not come into my life. I would have doubted. So where the difference I think on my sponsorship thing is that the 12 steps alone probably maybe would have catapulted me at the level that I am, but my sponsor's encouragement and his I smell more attitude allowed me to like go a little deeper with a lot of this stuff. So some of these things I'm doing, like the podcast and like the retreats, I would have had too much self-doubt wrapped up around that, and I don't think I would have been able to like say, I would have not done it out of fear. And Christopher helps me defeat that fear mechanism that stops me from doing things. And so the retreat certainly falls under that category. The seventh one, I call it Spurt 7. It's an acronym for Spiritual Underground Retreat. You might giggle a little bit. I get it. That's on purpose. I am not a saint. My book tells me that. Oh, so my guest ought to be here in a few minutes. I should probably breathe for a minute and get ready for her to come in. We'll introduce her in a few minutes. Thank you all for listening. Podcast listens are frankly down. I've heard that to be because of lack of people working and commuting. Most people listen to podcasts and that. Kind of get me down a little bit, but I will, my little dinger, I'm going to have to turn off my notifications. And it totally distracted me. Oh, so back in the saddle. Put out a call. You want your story on Spiritual Underground? Spiritual Underground podcast. I'd love to hear your recovery story, no matter what it is. I don't care if it's through yoga, mankind, if you found your own way somehow or another. 12 steps, from divorce, from nicotine, from eating, any kind of story that would fall under the category of recovery. Hell, let's just talk about life. Recovery. To regain or reclaim that which was lost or stolen. So I've rambled on. I can do that. It's interesting to me that I can sit down in front of this microphone and talk to you. Actually, nobody. I'm looking at the tools in the room and talking about what's on my mind today. Guest will be here in a few minutes. I'll turn the page. You won't hardly notice. And podcast come out a little late on this Sunday, but we'll get back in the saddle and get this thing rolling again. Love y'all. Thank y'all for allowing me to participate in my recovery in this manner this morning. Happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there. Peace out. Welcome to the Spiritual Underground podcast. This is Dan coming to you from my backyard woodshop studio, otherwise known as DTM Enterprises. I'm back again. You heard a little bit. I talked to you and did a little intro, so I'll save some of that. One thing I did leave out, though, and I always do my own commercial, is that if you need any handyman work or woodwork in the Louisville metropolitan area, you can contact me. You can go to DTM, or it's dtmww.net is my little woodworking handyman website, and you can find me on Facebook. I'm a available person. I'm not hard to find. So contact me there, and I'm just going to get right to it today. I put a call out because once in a while I get the feeling like I want to. My dad's going to walk in. What do you need?
Aw. Aw.
It's no big deal. We do that fairly often. My sponsor jokes around about the fact that I blow things off with my air compressor, and I'll forget to turn it on, turn it off, and then it'll leak down and it'll kick on in the middle of the podcast, and I have to get up and do it, or I get up and adjust the heat, or my daughter has a dog named Bruno. He will decide that he wants to come visit. He needs some attention. And so it's various little things happen
it's
in
all
here.
Perfect.
I
hate that he didn't come on in, though.
Yeah, and he won't.
Yeah.
You couldn't have talked him into it. I know him too well. Once once he saw it, there'd been no way that you could have talked him into coming back. If he was after that little project, he could,
so I said, you're here. Come on and get what you need.
But like I said, he's got all the time in the world, so no big deal. So I don't even remember where I was at. Oh, yeah, I put a little feeler out for podcast guests. Because I want to run, I really am driven to reach out beyond my sphere of people and see and get some people in here that I don't know. I've had a couple, do you go by Angie or Angela?
Angela.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thanks for asking.
Angela that I met when they pull up in the driveway, and I really love that energy of meeting here for the first time, because it's like there's all the preconceived stuff and anything I think I know about you that does not exist,
Right.
And I love that there's an excitement to that, right?
Yeah.
And I just love meeting new people.
Yeah.
I just really do. I would have never thought that I would have been that kind of guy who liked to do that and like to get in front of a microphone and talk. That'd have been something like, we said, what they say about public speaking kind of thing, about like one of the scariest things people can do.
Yeah.
This is a lot like that.
Yes.
When you put yourself out here and throw your voice out in the internet, and I would have never bet that I'd have done that. Well, the point being that I had put out some feelers trying to see if anybody, some guests would come in. During this time, there's also been another little hurdle that some people just aren't comfortable even face-to-face on one-on-one.
Right.
And I really like doing this face-to-face, and I thank you for coming here and doing that.
Thank you for allowing me.
I've done one Zoom that way, I'll just be completely honest, I'm just not feeling the Zoom podcast thing.
Yeah. You can't make eye contact is the hardest thing I'm finding with Zoom.
Yeah. I've had some guests on that weren't local. So I've used those avenues to do them, just be out of necessity. And I wanted to, we were doing some cross promotion with some other podcast people, and, so that they put me on theirs and I put them on mine, and we do some of that cross pollinating.
Right.
And so out of necessity, sometimes I do that, but I really like to have people come over and sit here and do this where you're eye to eye and in each other's energy zone kind of thing.
Well, your wood shop is amazing, so I got some projects. We'll talk afterwards.
Awesome. So I put those feelers out, and Angela reached out and expressed some interest, and we put it together pretty quickly.
Yep.
I like that. Sometimes I get some interest and it fades away. The one thing I do is I don't push people. I mean, I'll knock at the door maybe twice.
Yeah.
I'll make an initial thing, and then I'll say, hey, one more time, and if this is not meant to be, then because I'm this thing needs willing guests, right?
Right. Well, you could probably hold them here hostage. You have.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm kidding.
I've had some podcast people who are really wound up about sound quality and stuff, and they've said that this has a little bit of a bouncy noise in it because of this. But everybody that I know, because I have a spare room in my house that I could acoustically do a better job with. But the energy out here is just right, and I feel that too. And then I also got that from my friends and that said, no, keep it out in the wood shop. That's where it needs to be.
Like the smell of the wood and the energy out here. It's nice.
Yeah, so thank you for that. So Angela reached out, and we put it together, and she's got some background that's similar in some directions that and like I've said before, I'm interested in exploring all avenues of what I call recovery, which is a path to finding one's true self. That's what recovery is to me, even though, when you hear people say recovery, maybe I'm pigeonholed in my world a little bit about being recovery from chemical dependency. I find it, to me, I found a definition, and my sponsor shared it with me, was to reclaim that which was lost or stolen. I
like that. I like that. To recover.
Welcome to the show. I'll let you.
Thank you.
I kind of. One thing I've done is I'm able to sit here and talk on this thing, and I can flap my gums and talk a lot. So I'm glad to have you here, and already we've been talking, and I'm hoping some of it will get repeated, because sometimes I feel like maybe the mic ought to be on at the out in the
the meeting before the meeting, the podcast before the podcast.
Right, at the car, I should have a recording device. And
it might be easier if you're recording without telling me. I'm kidding.
No, I think there may be some laws around that.
Right, there may be. Yes, but so talking about recovery, I like to say that I'm recovered from a hopeless state of body, mind, and spirit, and I don't drink anymore or do self-destructive behaviors because I'm recovered from that hopelessness. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and I did. I'll just kind of start with, I'm an only child. My name is Angela Faith, and I am a shamanic practitioner and teacher. And for me, I have come to understand, I don't keep track of the years anymore, but I first walked into a meeting, a 12-step meeting in 2006, and walked back in 2010. And then left the fellowship of that 12-step group probably 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it was a wonderful experience to give me some community and the 12 steps and working with others, and to start remembering things that I had forgotten about myself. But as most things, I did not conform. It's funny when you were talking before we started about, using cuss words, that you're fine with that. I used to get when I'd go to a meeting and they'd say, no foul language because we're in the basement of a church. And I would just resist that so much, because then I would just want to say, fuck, just because you told me not to. Yep. So Me too. Right. And I would say, well, my God doesn't care if I was just that always rebellious. But I've had a different perspective on my story. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to tell it again, because I have not told it since I was at a podium. Mm. And I've come to look at it very differently. So at a very young age, I was very empathic, meaning I picked up other people's feelings. I felt what you felt. I could walk into a room of strangers and feel feelings, but not understand why and that they weren't mine. Mm-hmm. I felt strange, and I know I've heard this in a lot of talks. I felt different. I felt weird. I didn't have communication skills. I did, just not with other humans. As an only child, I talked to the spirit world as long as I can remember. And I didn't have people discouraging me from it, because I was by myself a lot until I started school. Mm. And then trying to conform and fit into this box. The biggest thing with me is it didn't feel right. What people told me about God didn't feel right. I had no reason to call them a liar or disbelieve them. It just didn't resonate in my soul. Yeah. So, but I didn't have anything else to... We talked about this before. Some of us think it has to be this or that. Well, if I don't believe what you're telling me, then I must believe in nothing. And for me, the most hopeless I have ever been is when I didn't have faith in anything. Yeah. That's when I've been the most hopeless. Right. And so, but growing up, I didn't go to church and all of that. But I was very empathic. I had a near-death experience at the age of 6. I almost drowned at swimming lessons, of all places. Oh, wow. I decided while the swim instructor was on the other side of the pool that I could push off from the wall and get myself back, and I couldn't. I pushed myself off and I sunk. Oh, wow. And I couldn't, I remember coming above the water and trying to yell, and all the other kids were holding onto the wall, and I couldn't get any sound out, and I'd go back under. And I remember just surrendering and seeing the sun. I wasn't afraid. I thought it was beautiful, actually. And then the swim instructor swept me up and got me on the side of the pool. And at the end of the 2 weeks, and I was 6 years old, little scrawny 6-year-old little girl, and for our big day when the parents would come, we had to jump off the 10-foot high dive. And I'm kind of hanging in the back of the line, and the swim instructor says, Angela, I want you to go first. I'm telling this story, it will get to something, because this moment when I was 6 years old, I've recently made the connection with other events in my life. And like we talked about, we forget who we are. Mm-hmm. When she said, Angela, go first, something, and it wasn't a punishment. And I walked my little self up that ladder that seemed like it was forever. And I walked out on that little plank that felt like a balance beam. And if you've ever been that high, water looks like it's 2 inches deep, But something in me knew that even though that seemed like the craziest thing to do, I was okay. And I pinched my nose and I stepped off and I jumped. And then I inspired the other kids to jump without even, that wasn't my intention, but that's what happened. Right, oh, yeah. She didn't die. So, right. So that moment was a near-death experience. And Again, I was very empathic. My first suicide attempt, I was 9.
Wow.
And it wasn't that I was so depressed. I was diagnosed with things, not yet at that point, but at this time I would probably be diagnosed with a lot. I was a little empath. My parents were going through a divorce. It was the kids at school. Like, I was picking up all of this. And if you're empathic, you know what I'm talking about. It's like this heaviness, this sadness, and it's just overwhelming. And when it's not yours, there's nothing to figure out.
Right.
And so I didn't know I needed a good cleansing. I want to talk about my mother a little bit. My mother was a witch, and a white witch. And so we had witchcraft books on the bottom shelf. And one of my early babysitters panicked and freaked out. And so the neighborhood became, the kids in the neighborhood and the other mothers said that my mother sacrificed animals in the back field, and I was the witch's daughter. So I was always the weird kid. But in that regard, I also had an open mind to reincarnation. My mother didn't like preach and teach me these things, but she also didn't dissuade me from believing things that she understood. And I also want to say all of the women in my mother's side were institutionalized, crazy. I'm using air quotes there. And that's all a sign of mysticism. You know, when you know things and you don't know why you know them, but you know them, or you feel things, but it's not the norm, and you're a woman, especially generations before me, you're crazy.
Right,
You're called
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I say all of this because I have come to see, and I understand, I want to say, I should have said this at the beginning, it's never my intention to tell anyone what to think, feel, or believe, but it's my hope to inspire people to think and to feel and to believe something, and also to think, feel, and believe what feels right to them, not because you're afraid or because someone's told you this is the only way. So I don't so much look at myself as having a disease. I look at myself as not being aware of how well I am.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the same thing, just a different way of wording it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah. So when I look at things, when alcohol was introduced, and alcohol was introduced in my life at the age of 9 also, before I tried to commit suicide, I believe. So, of course, you know, and I have to tell this story because it's kind of funny now. At 9 years old, I have to tell you how I attempted suicide. I took a bottle of aspirin. Gives you a real bad stomach ache. Real bad stomach ache. But that's how, you know, a little 9-year-old mind works.
Yep.
So I started self-medicating with alcohol, and I felt like everyone else when I did that. I did not have a problem walking into crowds. Now, I thought, well, there's something wrong with me. Something to do with my childhood, blah, blah, blah. I walk into crowds and I feel too much. So now I'm very selective of where I go. I use crystals to protect my energy. I work with angels. I have tools that are spiritual tools for me,
Right.
that have allowed me to live a mystical, magical life. And people think some can think I'm weird, most like it. Some will think I'm irresponsible because I refuse to buy into the fear of the world. I think it's a beautiful planet. I think everything is divinely orchestrated. I think there are no flaws. I don't think anything needs to be fixed. I think of God as, I love the term great mystery.
Yep.
Great mystery, creator. And I think of that as a verb. God, creator, great mystery is. There's nothing to ask of it. There's nothing to fix. There's nothing to beg for. Everything, when you think about gravity or watch a nature show, you can see how, like, we exhale and the trees inhale and they exhale, and everything is divinely geared and perfect. And so am I. So are you.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's not like I was bad then and I'm good now, or I was godly now and I wasn't godly then. because that's what kind of always messed me up. Am I talking too much?
Nope.
Okay.
I love it.
I told you I get going, and here we go.
No, that's
okay.
why I invite you here.
So that was kind of a tongue-in-cheek joke. I know I'm on a podcast. I'm supposed to talk. This is probably like my favorite thing ever.
Well, and I just allow people when they're on.
Yeah.
Or,
Just roll with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, things are going exactly the way they're supposed to be going.
Yeah.
I asked for that to begin with, and I trust it happens.
That's what I won't remember anything I said when this is over, and I'll trust that it's what needed to be heard.
Yeah.
And when I saw your thing on Facebook and I reached out to you to share, I was excited for myself, but I also always trust when I'm asked to share my story. It's not up to me who hears it, but I know that it needs to be heard somewhere. So thank you for that opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll totally lose my spot now. Growing up, like I said, I was an empath. I was raped when I was 12 for the first time, and there was a lot of sexual abuse. I had my first miscarriage at 14, and I recently have thought about, and this was all before the age of 19, a lot of sexual trauma. And my mother, bless her heart, she was a magical, mystical woman and so misunderstood. And unlike me, where I can reach out for others that think like me and have that support. In the 70s, the neighborhood women called her a witch and followed her to her bowling leagues because they thought she was going somewhere interesting. So she didn't have the guidance and the support. So her methods were not as intentional, maybe. And she had a lot of mental diagnoses. I'm real careful with my wording because in shamanic practices, we don't really believe in mental illness in the same way that society labels mental illness. You aren't put in a box and given a blue pill and told everything is, you're all going to be fine. And there's a whole lot of layers to that. And so she had a lot of those layers. So I was subjected to a very different kind of upbringing. Now, I do not blame my mother, nor do I think that I had a bad childhood. And that is a big thing for me to say, because yes, I was raped. She has beaten me. She has put a gun to my head, but it wasn't me that she was. Nothing anyone does to you or for you is about you. Nothing. So it was projected onto me, but it was her own, I don't want to use the word stuff. Her own unawareness of how well she was. Yeah. So now my mother passed away in 2003, and she is my greatest spirit ally, and she's pure positive energy, and we have the best time now. We have the best time now. Took us some time to get here. I did not grieve for 4 years after she passed. I was not feeling. I was medicating.
Yeah.
I was medicating with alcohol and drugs until 6, and then 2010. And again, I don't like to be boxed in, so I don't consider myself an alcoholic or an addict. I've dropped those labels for myself. It is just I have recovered from a hopeless state of being. And what that has looked like for me is, this has come up for me recently. People will say, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? Is that what do you do? If you're spiritual, what do you do? What do you do that's spiritual?
Yep, I hear you.
I read a
when
meditation,
you hear people say that, most of the time I think what they're kind of doing that black that this
either
or that
or.
black either or thing where what they're telling you is that they're not, this is my judgment. That you can put that on the table. You don't have to put it on the floor.
I knock them off. I'm bad about knocking them off tables. Yeah. It's loud. Yeah. No, it's really loud because it's metal.
We've had some loud podcasts. They're telling you that they don't participate in the Western religion or our predominant religion here when they say that. Right?
Yes.
I get it. I've used that term myself when communicating to certain people, but I understand, what you said, like exactly, I understand what makes you spiritual then?
And what's your spiritual practice?
What is this?
Do you have a spiritual practice?
Yeah. Just rejecting the one doesn't
Exactly.
necessarily mean that.
Exactly. And if I don't have a spiritual practice, and I'm not saying I'm not spiritual. I'm not saying if you don't have a spiritual practice, you're not spiritual. I feel like people on TV now, it's like, don't say anything to...
Yeah, I know it is. It gets you there is a lot of energy going around that has me guarding my words more than I want to.
Yeah.
You know,
And
but
I may say something that'll
taken
be
the wrong way,
offensive.
you know, and occasionally I'll get called on this where I will have said a word.
Yes.
And I'm just sitting here talking.
It's
you know,
not
I
my
am
intention.
Not, right. I have
Right.
no motives here on of
Yes.
striking any line there. And you know what? Tomorrow, if I say something, one of my favorite AA speakers is named Bob Earl. He got sober real early, and he broke some molds. You know, matter of fact, he was like blacklisted from speaking for a while because his ideas were not
My kind of guy.
in a line. Me too. Yeah, and he's done a lot of speaker tapes. But he says, you know, don't take what I'm saying too strongly because I might change my mind this afternoon.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I don't want to be. I don't. You know, that it happens so often to the.
Free
these,
speakers.
And even people who are just regular, you know, celebrities and that kind of stuff will slip up and say something.
Yeah.
You know, and they are put on. They're crucified, frankly, for you know, and maybe never recover.
Right. One thing.
Because
Hank
of
Jr.
some little grunt. Yeah, right. Because
like,
of some
where did
little,
he go?
Obviously, these words that come out are really just these grunts and groans that
Yeah.
we use to communicate.
Yeah. It's all
we've
about
decided
intention.
that the thing dog means that thing.
Yeah.
You know, but I get you, and I really try not to guard my words that hard because I don't think I should have to.
Right, and that's me. I'm never intending to hurt anyone's feelings, but I also honor my. Honestly, you know, Dan, it's been. I think a lot of people will relate to this. I have been feeling more of a calling to speak too, and not my mind or my opinion or my opinion, my story, my understandings, because I'm finding that people need to hear it. Not so much my opinions, but what I have to share. Yeah. And like I'm finding that more and more. Right.
Say, you know, I'm going to share my experience.
Yes.
This is my experience.
Yes.
You know, and you really can't tell me I'm wrong.
Exactly. This is how I see things. And if this helps you with your perception, because again, so many are, it's this or that. Yeah. And that's where, for me, with the shamanic practices, shamanism is the oldest spiritual practice. It's worldwide. It's, was here before Christianity or before, you know, Buddhism, all of those religions. It is it's got the principles. It's not a religion, but it is a spiritual practice, if you will. And I'm not saying I'm a shaman, I'm a shamanic practitioner, so I practice shamanic practices and traditions and methods. And that is my spiritual practice. And so it gives me a different perception. But what does that mean? That means that I communicate with nature. That means I meditate every day to show up for spirit. That means I work with crystals, and I'm that foo-foo person that you'll see out talking to my trees. All of my trees have names, and they're beautiful. There's Carl and Gayla and Sam and Opal and Sweet Maple and Charlotte.
Sweet Maple.
Yes. And so...
we have some parallels there to some extent. You know, one of the things, I don't know why the name Carl is something that's been in my life, like for all my life that name has been. And I love, you know, I'm a nature guy, you know, and I grew up hunting and fishing. Dad taught me to do that, you know. And
being
and I've
out in
gone
nature.
To be, you know, I to say today, like the last deer I killed was in 2000. But I hunt every year a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and I've realized that, you know, I've heard a term lately called forest bathing.
Yep.
You know, that relates to what I like. Yeah, that's really more in line with what I'm doing. I tell people to use it. And sometimes what hunting, when you see me hunting, it looks like me dressed in camouflage 25 foot up in a tree reading a book.
Yeah. And talking to squirrels.
Yeah.
And, you know, all of that being one with nature, your
we
breath.
have that property, and like you said, that big tree out there, there's some energy in these big trees or whatever. And where our property is, it's got some Hoosier National Forestry in it, which means ultimately what that means is it hasn't been cut in a long time. So there are still some old trees.
Right.
Because, you know, we mowed this, at least the eastern half of this country down at one point.
Yeah.
Old trees are
always
really
changing.
not existent because we cut them all down.
Yeah.
But there are some big monarchs out there, and most of them are ones that don't have any commercial value.
Right.
That's why they weren't cut. That's the only
Right.
reason they
Only
survived.
reason
They had
they're still
branches come
there.
out low and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
and I have some favorite trees down there, and I visit them. There's some of them. There's one big tree that I probably visit every single time I'm there and
Yeah.
put my hand on it
Yeah.
every single time I'm
And
there.
it recognizes, and that's that whole, we're so caught up on talking and what we see with our eyes and what we think we know. I love to teach imagination is more powerful than knowledge. Because when I was in school, I saw a picture of a mountain with a white snow cap, and it said, knowledge is power. And I took that in, and I was real studious. I was a good student, hated school, but I was good. It was easy. Studying was easy. School wasn't easy, but the book part was. Now I understand that I can know the world is round, but with my imagination, I can travel anywhere.
Yeah.
I can go beyond this planet that we're on with my imagination. So I think that, and when you imagine that, you invoke energy. I don't want to talk too foo-foo on all of that, but it's healing. With our communicating with nature, it's that using your imagination rather than depending on your five senses or your knowing, oh, I know this is a tree. Oh, but there's so much more.
Yeah.
If you can imagine what's underneath the ground, the roots and the stories that they have to tell.
Right. What they've seen.
Yes. And so when I work with spirits. When I was explaining my concept of God as creator, great mystery, God is I work with angels in the sense of, this is again just me. When I pray, I do not pray for specific outcomes. I acknowledge that everything is as it's supposed to be, even though I don't understand it. Even though I don't need to understand it, I don't feel a need to anymore. I trust, so I don't need to bother God. But I work with my angels for guidance, for support, for direction, for all of that kind of stuff. And I work, angels and guides draw near. I work in one of the shamanic practices is working with power animals. I journey, which is going to upper world, lower world. It's different than meditation, but I can go there and I work with my power animal, my spirit guide. So why I'm sharing all this is this is my spiritual practice. And to someone that's very stuck in a certain belief, it will look ridiculous.
Yep. Right.
But for someone that doesn't have another belief and thinks it's either or, maybe this will resonate with you. And that's where I teach. I don't teach people and say, I'm going to teach you how to be a shaman. That's not possible. It is teaching the practices that have been used for centuries that are effective in feeling that spirituality, not just saying I'm spiritual, but feeling connected. It's unbelievable how I have feelings that I couldn't even comprehend my whole life. And it's not because, I once said it was all because I was under the influence, but it's not just that. It's that connection that I had as a little girl to all of my stuffed animals had the essence of spirits. My babies, my Barbies, my everything. I played outside all the time. That's the connection I lost. That's when I lost my connection to my soul self. And a lot of us do. And being empathic, being a mystic, I'm cognizant. So ever since I've been a little girl, I know things that I can't tell you how I know them. I just do. And adults thought I was really an old soul and they weren't sure how to handle me, and kids thought I was weird. And so I understand that I'm getting information from my ancestors. I like to tell this story. I have twin girls, and I had never changed a diaper when I had my twins. The nurse at the hospital thought it was insane that I had twins, and she had to show me how to change diapers. And I was 19, and I knew. I had my girls on a schedule. People were amazed. I had them, they went to bed at the same time. They took a nap every day at the same time. It just fell in like clockwork. It wasn't that I am some, amazing little mother. I still had that connection. and no one had told me not to. And my ancestors were helping me. My great-grandmother was a twin.
Oh, really?
And her mother died when she was 2. And so you think those women didn't know how to take care of babies?
Yeah.
So our ancestors can help us even if we don't know them. I feel like I'm getting lost now in my topic. Ask me a question.
I really like the I'm open today. That's one of the gifts that have that I've been able to receive on through this 12-step message, and
Yes.
specifically through, and I will say, that's not necessarily a 12-step message.
Yeah.
My sponsor has helped me with that because he is also open to things,
Yes.
and there's one of the principles that I try to drive home with the people I work with is that little concept, because I think there's some real fundamental stuff. I think there's, like you were saying about these century-old practices and all that, this is stuff, and it couldn't live that long if it wasn't valid, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
things that don't work, we put away.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so these things have worked before we had written language and stuff, because
Yep.
people were carving symbols and stuff in caves and things on opposite ends of the country
Yes.
or opposite ends of the world that have some
same thing.
correlation to one another.
Yes.
And had similar practices, and they could have not any way, shape, or form been able to form these
Yes.
practices together in the same way, as an opposite kind of thing of how one country may have a sport that's specific to them and another one has a different one that's specific to them.
Right. Right.
Those occurred independent, although
Yep.
they still have that element of play, that both of these people felt this need to
Compete.
institute play and competition and things into their
Right.
worlds. There's this spirit thing that's happened, and I don't really know what to call it. I found myself calling them spiritual axioms just because I don't really have any a spiritual truth or a
Synchronicity is the
these
word.
things that they just go, and the same, so one of the things, to circle back to that, one of the fundamental things that I picked up in 12-step is being able to, he over and over again says some concepts of having to be willing to let go of your old ideas.
Yes. Yes.
Be able to let go of these
Yes.
old thoughts that we
Yes.
think, or this is the way it was.
Change can't
Most of the
happen
time,
out
that
here
stuff
until
is
it
being
changes.
taught to us.
Yes.
I like to think I'm my own man, I'm this, but I'm no
Yeah.
different than Pavlov's dogs at some level. That most of everything has been given to me.
Right.
Now there is an innate me in there someplace.
Right.
And that's what I meant about that thing about recovery of what. Like Joseph Campbell's hero's journey kind of thing. I think almost like my job now is, you almost wonder if life is not a thing where you are born and you get covered up with this stuff until you can't bear it anymore, and now your job is to uncover.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And that happens to some people when they're 19.
Yes.
That happens to some people when they're 75.
Yes.
Wherever that
Yeah.
turning point happens,
Yes.
that decides that we're going to shift our consciousness in a different direction. Some people it never happens with,
Yeah.
or it doesn't happen in this
In
trip
this
around the
experience.
globe,
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
this is. I don't even want to begin to think, but I'm open to that, and I do believe fully that there's some things. I think my deja vus and some of the other things that I have of that, these
Yeah.
remembrances I have
Yeah.
of things that haven't happened to me, that
Yep.
consciously in this being,
Yep. And
are
things
things
that
that's
you
happened
know.
some other time that
Yes.
so and the more I'm able to unload this bullshit off of me,
Yes.
the more I'm actually open and able and available to allow this other stuff to come in. It's like
Yes.
a full glass of water. I can't put any more water in that glass until I dump some
You
out.
have to let some out. And that's nothing can change on the outside until you change it in your way of thinking. You can't change anything until you change the way you believe about that thing. And it's for me, I love to say you can't make this shit up.
You can't.
I don't believe what I believe because someone's told me. I've lived it and experienced it. I know that what I like to say is I am not capable of comprehending how all of this works.
Yeah.
But wow. And
I'm gonna pick up my binoculars and I'm gonna look around at it.
it's just beautiful.
take it in.
And I love to use the story. Oh, and one of the things at the beginning you said about meeting someone new. I love to do this. I love to get up some mornings and pretend. You remember when you were a child, maybe you will, and you have a field trip the next day and you'd be so excited because you were going on a field trip and you weren't sure, you knew where you were going, but you didn't know what to expect and you'd be up early. Every day is like that.
Yeah.
And especially meeting someone
that way,
new.
too.
It's like I'm going on a field trip. So all the way here, I'm watching for the birds that I see. And I had someone tell me one time, because again, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. They said, I don't try to look at everything and read something into everything. I said, well, I just look at the world differently. It's not that I try to read something into everything. I perceive everything different than most. And it's a beautiful, magical world. And I play in my yard, and I play a lot. I cultivate joy every day as much as I can. I refuse to live in fear. I refuse.
Yeah, me too.
Why? Because I've been there.
Yeah.
As we know, any of us that have been in the grips of addiction, I refuse to be unhappy. And I'm not saying I'm happy all the time. I'm saying when I get unhappy, I refuse to stay there.
Right. I have tools today that I don't.
Yes.
Again, I don't. I call it compass correction. One of the things that there's a bunch of different terms that get tossed around. One of them I learned from yoga is like a true north alignment.
Yes, absolutely,
and when my compass needle is in my true north, life flows.
Yep.
I do pick up the stuff. For whatever reason, yesterday on the way back from a cabin, I'm having a men's retreat next weekend down at that
nice.
place, and last May it was I had 32 guys there. This one I've capped it a little bit and keep it in a little less, but I'm still not going to live in fear and not do it because of the current climate. I think we're safe to be out in the woods together,
outside, right?
And, and there's only some people are tent camping. We're all we'll be okay.
Yes, you'll be
But I
responsible.
was on the way back yesterday. I saw a lot of hawks yesterday.
Yes.
And I like that. I've always been connected to those birds. And I get home and I get a message from a friend that had some hawk talk in it.
See, can't make this shit up.
Right? Yeah. And then there was one specific one we saw, and when Dad and I turned. Dad goes with me all the time. We just buddy up and do things together. And I turned a corner and we looked, and I pointed up on the line, and there was a hawk up there, and he was looking straight down. And that gave him a very unique posture.
Yes.
Because it was like almost regal, maybe almost like and submissive at
almost
the same
in
time,
prayer.
almost in prayer.
Yeah.
And like there's also some symbolism I remember seeing of hawks and birds of prey in that posture.
Yes.
And all that comes right in a minute now. And
Yep.
it's not just a bird on a wire.
Exactly. And your awareness, how many people drove past and didn't even notice the bird because they're all up in their head and that's what I mean. It's like we're in constant, I am in constant dialogue with my creator. I learn from the birds, and for me, if I see something unusual or I start seeing it a lot, Google's my best friend, makes me feel smart. And I'll Google spiritual meaning of hawk. And some mystics will say you shouldn't do this. You should. I do what feels right. And you're going to get a whole bunch of different interpretations, but the one that resonates with you is the one. Yeah, something will land, and you'll be like, oh. Yeah. I needed that
in my
support.
Life. People that walk in like you, that have allowed me this because I wouldn't be able to do this without some people like almost giving me permission to see it, right? And to point me, And that's still saying that gets back to that true north alignment thing. I don't see that hawk and know that unless when I'm not in alignment.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Other things don't happen like that, and I can feel that. I can really. I say like sometimes my compass needle is like pinging.
Right.
Right. It's just,
tuned in, tapped in,
my hair stands up, my neck tingles. A lot of times when I'm around people, I've been having that feeling with you.
Yeah.
When I'm around certain people, I get this tingling up the back of my neck, and I just want to drink it.
Yes.
Like I don't want you to go away.
Yep.
Just stay here.
It's good energy.
Yeah. And it's that high, it's that natural kind of high that in a sense that I want that to some extent I'm chasing in life. I want to feel this, and like you said, I'm not always happy, and we're not, there's things that happen, blah, blah, blah. But when my compass needle is pinging that true north, I get teachers walk into my life.
Yes.
I'm open to receiving these gifts that the universe has for me, that I deserve every single one of them. I no longer say things like, I used to say things like this, it's better that I deserve, or I don't deserve this. That kind of stuff, like when it comes to recovery, that I somehow or another didn't deserve recovery, but somehow I've been granted it.
Yeah.
I don't believe that anymore. I believe I deserve everything that comes my way.
It's just a matter of claiming it.
I remember one of my very first stories, and just to sidetrack there, was I have toads that live here, and toads live in my basement.
Oh, cool.
And like I said, I hunt all my life, and I have absolutely no rejection to eating meat, to killing animals.
Right.
I think there's actually an honor in in some kind of in another way a gift from the universe that's given to me, and when I hunt,
Yes.
and I really place that on a reverent type of state
Yes.
rather than something else. That's really a even as a kid, when I would get something, there would be some kind of energy, like a thankfulness and a reverence towards the fact that I had taken this life in order to.
It was an exchange.
And we'd always eat stuff that we,
Yeah.
And I skin them, and I
Yep.
use their skin, and I use
Yep.
and so to say, but I've never been like somebody would kill things, and the last thing in the world I'm going to do is kill like a toad or something.
Right.
But I had it, somebody said, look it up, see what it is. You've got these toads in your life.
Yep.
And I did.
Yep. And they're good luck.
And it right. And
Prosperity.
also like and another part of it, what I picked up, like I said,
Yep.
what resonated with me, that it was a guidance coming into my life, showing me I was on the path I'm supposed to be on.
Yep.
That toads, their
It's
path
that
is
support.
that.
Yeah.
And and I one day I was sitting down and thinking, how, some of these things are big. I got a picture of one that's a big toad about the size of a tennis ball. That's a pretty big toad, for around
Right.
here.
Right.
And I took a little picture of it by a tennis ball. I was trying to find something that would be like relatable to the
Right.
size of this toad. And I don't know how they're getting in and out, and I don't know what they're doing. I think they must be eating well, making a good living down in my basement.
They're
with the
serving a
bugs and
purpose.
stuff. And
My husband
I
and
found
I-
one halfway up the basement steps one day.
Oh,
I took a picture of it, and it was like halfway up, like it was hopping.
he's on his way
Yep.
up. He's the curious toad.
Yeah. But that was one of the teacher stories on the,
Yeah.
because I want there's a piece of me, there's an old piece of me that wants to reject that immediately. There's a,
Yep.
Bob Earl, that same speaker I picked up a bunch of different things, that there's an element in me that when you bring me something that works for you, I want to instantly reject it. I
Right,
don't know what
right.
that little element
Or question
is,
it.
and even I look at it sometimes, like when somebody will offer me, like, hey, would you like to, they come around with cookies, and they say,
Yeah.
would you like to have a cookie?
Yeah.
And I go, no, thank you.
Yep.
Actually, yes, I would.
But you're
there's
dying.
something
The little
in me
kid
to
in you is
not-
like, I
to
want
go-
it.
to say, no, thank you, I'm okay.
Yeah.
One of the other gifts of this recovery thing is being able to allow myself to receive these gifts that are offered to me, whatever they are. Now,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, a cookie, if I'm, diabetic and I shouldn't eat a cookie, there's a reason for that, right?
Right,
There's really
right.
no reason why I can't have a cookie, and I want a cookie.
Yeah.
And when you offer me some of the spiritual teaching, there were some things in me that would want to reject that. My ex-wife was ahead of me on the curve on some things, some medicinal medicine and some other things like that. And back when
Yeah.
I was covered up with dope and booze,
Yeah.
I rejected every piece of that.
Oh, yeah.
And then, as I got this stuff lifted off of me,
Yeah.
I go back and I go, huh.
Yeah. It makes
Sure.
some sense.
I was, and I can actually, and I can speak that with her today. We have a really good relationship, and I can say,
Good for you.
You told me this stuff, and I laughed at you,
Yeah.
and I was wrong.
It is, you can't make it up. It's like the proof is in the pudding. It's when you start recognizing the support you have, and I like to tell people nature is the easiest way to communicate and to like the non-physical and the physical, even our loved ones that have passed. But it becomes like a dance, like you were saying. And for me, when I stopped looking for all of the support in the physical world, because this is my belief, if I am not getting any spiritual support by connecting with nature through meditation, I meditate every day.
Me too.
It is as important to me as, what's the most important thing I do every day? Waking up. It's
Breathing.
as important to me as breathing and waking up. And I don't sit there and I'm not looking for messages then. I'm showing up for spirit. It's like I'm asking for help through my day. I can show up for 15 minutes. And for me, it's sitting in silence I have altars and I do my thing. But it's that when I have that support, I'm not so damn needy from all the humans in my life. And I'm not so angry at them for not being what I think I need them to be. I have more compassion instead of judgment.
Right. Yeah.
Something I do want to touch on that I have had to redefine for myself, and something you said made me think about it. I teach now being selfish with integrity. And I know in 12-step programs, it's all about don't be, we're selfish, self-centered, self-seeking, and never say no, and you always got that. For a person like me who is an empath and who is a sensitive and who understands energy the way I do, that did not work for me. And so I'm selfish now with integrity. So I don't feel like it's my responsibility to make sure you're okay 24/7 if I'm your mentor or sponsor or whatever word. I don't expect you not to make any mistakes, because you're going to, and you need to. You need to.
Yep.
And you need to learn to make decisions for yourself, even if I'm thinking that's probably not the best choice, but you go right on and try it that way if you need to.
Yep.
It drained me, and again, that's where I start going with, I loved the 12 steps. It not only helped me, but it's helped members of my family. So I'm not ever intending to say that it's not a wonderful, powerful thing, but it's recognizing, as we say, take what you want and leave the rest sometimes. And if you have to expand beyond that, for me, I will say no. I often will say I'll be a maybe, because I don't know how my energy is going to be. Like today, we talked about I may not interact the rest of the day. And it's not that you are draining me. It's because I'm excited to be here, and I get really high. My energy gets really high.
Yeah, me too.
So I wear myself out, And also
tend
for
to
me,
drive to extremes in some places, And,
yes. And that's a good thing, because I'm learning
but if
that.
I don't care for myself, and the flip
Yes.
side, that's where my balance in my life comes, is that
Yes.
I have to make sure that I also care for myself on the backside.
Make yourself
of that.
a priority.
Then I can do this. I can actually have both
Then
of
you
those
can
things.
be there for your sponsees, for your friends, for, if I say put your oxygen mask on first.
Yep.
And because what I heard, and this was me, what I heard was everyone else is more important than you, and you need to be, if you make yourself important, you're being selfish.
Yeah.
So you need to, that was how I
yeah.
perceived
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I
Had
now
some
say,
fundamental issues with that stuff, and still, but I'm in alignment with what you're saying too.
yeah, and
because
so it's saying the same
I think
thing.
one of the things that, just for my end, is I think when we're actually in that real hard,
Yeah.
some of this stuff is pendulum swing stuff.
Yes.
So we're going to swing the pendulum way
And
over
that's
here
me.
for a minute.
So,
Because
yep.
I'm way selfish at some level, and I'm
Exactly.
just basically killing myself at some level, and I'm totally into this. Staying completely numb to the world, numb to the good and the bad and everything else.
Yes.
Now and then, to come over to the unselfish side, and then I got to swing back in and find where the middle is.
Exactly, because unselfish should not be self-sacrificing.
Right.
And that's where I was getting, was self-sacrificing, and that got me all sideways too.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, I wasn't worthy unless I was helping someone.
Yeah.
And I sometimes can help someone by staying home and taking care of myself first.
Yeah.
I can help more people that way.
Yeah.
So it's,
I would say my sponsor models that stuff for me very
Yes.
well, And of
Yes.
course, after the amount of years he's been playing with this stuff and dabbling and working with different teachers, and he models some things for me really well. And some of that is a self-care thing. Like,
Yes.
he's demonstrated to me that he takes Sundays off, and it's not a Sabbath kind of thing. It's not any of that.
Yep.
There is some fundamental to that.
He's
that
recharging
story of that.
spiritually,
That story of taking a day off. I think is valid.
rest,
It's not
yes.
a religious practice of why he does it.
Yeah.
But he does it, he says, hey, one day a week I'm checking out.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
a long time I was supposed to call him every day, and
Right.
I did, but he never really answered on Sundays.
Yeah.
And then later on he said, probably not a lot of if you need me
If
on
it's an
Sunday, let me know,
emergency,
but my Sundays are a little bit, but he had me do something different for a while, and then later on he said, hey, my Sundays are mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't answer the phone, and I don't respond to texts.
And that's selfish with integrity.
right, yeah.
That's not saying I'm because some people will say, well, what if I need you on Sunday? Well, I'm not the one you
One of the
need.
things also been telling you is to build
I'm not the
yourself a
one you
little
need.
support system here where you have some
Exactly.
more people, not just me.
Whether it and your spiritual practice, it's they go hand in hand. And so I guess for me, I got so dependent on the people. And so for me now, it's I don't want to. I will share through the holidays because I don't participate in the fellowship. This past Christmas, I struggled more than I have in a really long time with the thought of drinking. And I didn't want to escape. I wanted to have the ability to drink socially. Like a lot of, damn it.
Yep.
Why can't I? And then I would and I know in the rooms we talk about your disease talking to you. And I started thinking that because I have I'm still like I was when I was an only child, and this works for me. I spend a lot of time by myself, but I like that. I'm never alone. I don't want it to sound like I'm always hanging out with the spirit world. That doesn't sound healthy. But I spend a lot of time, I'm so okay with myself, and I do rituals. And talking about ancient practices, there's a reason ritual and ceremony is still practiced in every religion. And I do those things. I don't stay glued to the news and worry about the state of the world, but every day I do a ritual to support, not to change what's happening, but to support the change that is happening. And then I go on with my magical day, and I forget there is a pandemic because I'm out singing to my trees and playing my drum and doing what I do. I get sidetracked again.
That's okay. There's a lot to talk about. You try to feel like you want to cram a lot of information in a sense too, but I trust again that things get talked about. It's supposed to be, and I follow. It's interesting to me when you sit with somebody, because when you first contacted me, I feel something, and I don't know. I'm not. In one way, I feel like this old soul, and another way, it feels really new. My sponsor would tell me some things that would have, like in the beginning, I wanted to reject some things that he had proposed to me about some things I might have been in previous lives and stuff. And that's new stuff to me, and I'm not.
I do past life regressions. It's interesting stuff. You cannot.
And so I'm open to that
up.
today. And I see some of that, and as I open my spirit to allow that in, and then so when I get with somebody and we're talking this stuff, and I get in where you're so many I call it here bell ringers.
Yeah. Yeah.
My bell's getting rang with things you say, and
resonates.
I have to actually refrain from interrupting.
Yeah.
Because I want to jump in and say things. And that's the way this podcast also works, because my guests will run out of gas or they'll lose their track of thought.
It gives you a chance to talk.
So then I fill in the blank, And I think that's what, because
Yeah.
then I'll say some things because that'll probe some new stuff.
Yes.
And it just ends up being this natural exchange. And I enjoy actually this kind of, in the beginning of the podcast, when we first started this thing, it was interesting. It was 12 of us showed up at a coffee shop because we thought we had some interesting things to say.
Yeah.
And maybe there were some other people, because we talk about this juice that we get in our recovery life is not really typical of what I'm seeing when I go to every meeting I go to.
Right.
I'm not seeing this thing that when I walked into the room, and that's what this podcast is named after, that men's home group is the Spiritual Underground.
Okay.
And when I walked into the Spiritual Underground meeting, I instantly felt something that I wanted and needed, really.
Yeah.
I saw an energy and a life in these guys' eyes, in the way they were operating and in the way they were talking and the stuff they were sharing, that instantly gave me, because I bumbled around. It was interesting too. You said there was a 4-year stint in your window. Well, but from my first time into AA to my current sobriety date is 4 years.
Yeah.
And I bobbled around in and out, and I would go out and get hurt some more, and then think I needed to I can't do this any longer. And I'd come back to AA and get in our white chip, and I had some of these episodes where I would come back and get shamed for my failure, which made me not want to come back again.
Right.
It had the exact opposite effect on me.
Yeah.
It was a fuck you. I ain't coming back here again.
Yep. Who are you to judge me,
and so
you
what
sick
I started
son
doing
of
was
a
lying
bitch?
too. I would drink and I wouldn't come back. I was like, I learned when you went back in there and got a white chip, you got knocked around, but there was also these loving forces, and that's that negative bias I see, and I have that where I will tend to absorb this negative harder than I will. 29 people in a room will tell me how good I look today, and one will say not, and I'll listen to the one. Yes. So I understand that probably there's a lot of that going on early on, that it really wasn't being negatively assaulted at the level that I was taking on.
Absolutely.
But it didn't matter.
Didn't matter. It was your reality.
I still had that same impact on me. And what I learned to do is when I came back in, I would drink and come back in, and I started what I called in my days of pretending to be sober. It looked like I was participating in a fellowship. People around me, although there was these certain element of people, and I know it's to me, I know that we toss around these words. I'm not gonna guard these people who were more awake than others. Knew that I wasn't really sober. But those same people, because they were awake, they didn't shame me and didn't do any of that, and those people are still in my life, and a lot of them are sitting here with me today. And they also knew the day when it started, like the miracle happened.
When it started changing.
When the light switch flipped and Dan woke up.
Yep.
You know, and they saw that happen.
Yes.
And I would share about why that happened. And I don't know what that is. You know, you just keep on searching, right?
Yep.
You keep looking
Yep.
in this box and that box and that box. And I found this men's home group
Wow.
because a friend of mine invited me. And when he first started inviting me, I couldn't go with him because it was his and it wasn't mine, right? You know, it's that same rejection.
Right.
He had.
Right.
I have something to do.
I already
on
have
Tuesday
my home
night, so I'm
group.
busy. Thank you.
Right.
And then when I finally ended up in that desperation point where I was like, dude, is that meeting going on tonight?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, it is. And
You
I
were
went with
ready.
him, and my life shifted that night. That night. And I can actually still have, like, there's something I would have told you. I hear people say things, and my friends all know this about me, is that I would have told you, and you hear around that people say they can't remember names.
Yes.
I'm terrible with names.
Yes,
I would have
yes.
told you the same thing.
Yes.
Like now I'm like almost like a Rain Man name.
That's funny.
Like I could sit in a meeting with people and there'd be 60, 70 people in there and I know all their first names and most of their
Wow.
last names. And I
That's a
remember
gift.
people today. And it really is a gift, and it's a gift in this recovery world really good because when people come back and you remember them, it means something.
When you call someone by their name, it is like a calling home
Yep. Yep.
to hear your name spoken. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I said it's a gift, and like so from that meeting, I can still tonight. This was November of 2014.
Right.
I can almost tell you the meeting was not at the normal church that night. It was in a guy's basement because the church was busy. So and we were in the
Had to
basement of
improvise.
somebody's house, and it was a spiritual underground, and we were in the basement. And I can pretty much tell you where everybody was sitting, and I know exactly who was to my left and to my right, and I could probably draw you a diagram of where people were at in that meeting.
Yeah.
I can tell you that, and I know which ones I still see on a regular basis, which are quite a few.
Wow.
And so those memories burn in, you know. And I had that shift happen to me. And then once again, now I can't remember where I was going with this whole thing. But, but that awakening and that 4-year stint of bouncing around, I said I bounced off the walls and halls of AA.
Yeah.
Until
Yeah.
it happened, you know, and I look at this like this journey. So no longer do I like when I see somebody bouncing.
Yeah.
I try to be that person that I saw that supported you, but didn't get in your way.
Yeah.
Loved you,
Regardless.
but didn't try to like
Save you.
grab you by the hand and pull you out of
Right.
it.
Right.
Save you.
Yeah. We don't need to be saved.
And you know, and I hope and I ask, if you call it prayer or whatever,
Right,
you know, that
right.
you know, I do say some prayers for people that I hope that person gets it, you know.
Yeah.
I hope that they
Yeah.
survive this go around. But then again, you know, there's this other piece of me like this that, you know, if they don't,
Oh, bless their
it's
hearts.
okay too, you know.
Isn't
I mean,
it
I
just
think
glorious
they're
when?
gonna have to transform into whatever,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
and like you said earlier, you know, I had a big fear of death when I was a kid. I remember a period of time that I was very dark. And you know, one of the things that's funny with it is I've associated with a lot of Pink Floyd music
Yeah.
today. It was a long time before I could listen to Pink Floyd again. It
Yeah.
really was.
I can understand that.
And,
I can relate to that.
And I got to where I had some suicidal thoughts. I never
Yep.
really went there.
Yeah.
But and I don't know where, you know, I wouldn't even begin to say I know what was going on with that. But, you know, there's something like it's saying that, you know, probably a guiding force told me that no, you don't. You're going to stay around a while longer.
Yeah.
I would tell you like I was scared to do it.
Yeah.
And there was some of that. I'd be a little bit afraid to do it when I
Right.
hit a dark spot in recovery. There was a time when I was looking to figure out how to check out because I couldn't
Right.
get it.
Right. Yeah.
And that was looked like again that pinhole in the box where there was the 12 steps to save me.
Yeah.
That looked like maybe an out at some point was to kill myself. No, the thing today, like looking back and doing work, I realized one of the things that kept me from doing it was I didn't want to hurt these other people around me. I didn't want to hurt
Yeah.
my parents.
Yeah.
I also thought, I had to figure out a way to do it where it looked like an accident so that they could get the
Insurance,
money.
right?
You
It
know,
got
and I
too
could
much,
never
too
figure out a way
complicated,
to do
didn't it?
that, you know.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
all became and didn't, but in a way I feel like that was the Spirit guiding me through that process and
Yep.
out to the other thing. But I no longer fear death the way I did when I was a kid. There were some dark times where I just couldn't shake it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've done some bad things in my life. I've done some people where I have done some things and the remorse inside of me that I can't shake it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I cannot forget about,
Yeah.
heck, I've been in love, and then the love ends and the relationship ends, and I can't shake that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I constantly am redirecting, then you get a few years or some time, whatever
Yeah.
it is, down the road, and you kind of giggle at yourself about how hung
How
up you
it's-
were on that for a while.
Right,
And,
right.
And everybody always said, it'll pass in time, and you don't want to hear that then.
Or seeing the silver lining in the hindsight. It's,
Usually
seeing.
something. Heard something. I don't know what it is, and I think I told you the other day. I think maybe it was you that I was talking to on the phone about the Joseph Campbell. I get into these
Yes, yes.
I go down the rabbit holes with people. I've been down the Brene Brown rabbit hole. I've been down
Yeah.
the Jordan Peterson rabbit hole. I've been down these other.
I love
rabbit holes.
Abraham Hicks. I think I mentioned that to you.
And I tickled around the edges of that
Yeah.
for a bit.
Yeah.
Actually, I found myself falling short on content that was suitable for me.
Gotcha. I'll Google Abraham Hicks and then I'll say a topic.
Yeah.
And it's about the law of attraction, and I practice that.
Totally,
so, yeah.
So I'm in this Joseph Campbell thing, and then there's a guy on this thing, and it's called, and I'm almost beginning to hoard this in a way because I'm using it. Things will come in. I put a theme out for that men's retreat I do. I actually put some programming and some effort into making it more than just going and camping for the weekend.
Yeah.
We're going to do
Yeah.
some things. And we're
You
gonna
get
work on some
inspired.
stuff. And when I hear, when something tickles me,
yeah.
I know what that is today.
Yeah.
And so I don't get hung up on what's the theme going to be for this year's retreat.
Yeah.
It will come if I just be
Get out of the
still
way.
and wait. And it
Yeah.
did, and it came in the form of this Joseph Campbell thing, which I was
Yeah.
introduced to when I went to yoga teacher training a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Whatever, how long that's been.
Where
a
did you
year
do your
ago.
teacher training?
502 Power Yoga.
Me too.
Did you really?
I did too.
When
yes.
did you do it?
When? 2014, 15, I think. I can't
Really?
remember. Yeah. I'm.
Yeah. So yeah, isn't that wild
Yes.
stuff? That you do that.
Baptiste
So-
power yoga.
Yep.
Yes.
So that's what I practiced today, and
Yep, me
and I
too.
never really fell into teaching.
Me either.
But the teacher training was a growth spurt.
Yep. It
It was
was
an opportunity, and I
life-changing.
could tell that it was something, and I was called.
Yep.
I knew, I was like, okay, I'm going to go do that.
Yes.
And yoga's been huge on my recovery because I do believe that there's and I think it's hidden in those words where it says it's. And I'm not a real good quoter of this stuff, but it says something to the fact that it's not only that if you don't pay attention to the physical part of this thing,
Yeah.
you're missing something.
Yeah.
So I actually
Yeah.
encourage my people that I work with today to do some physical activity.
Yes.
I don't care what
yes.
it is. Go for a walk.
Do something.
Get up
Move
and
your body.
move.
Yes.
Come
move
do yoga
your
with
body.
me. I'll do that. So I
Did
will
you?
do
Yeah.
some yoga at the retreat. But Joseph
Yeah.
Campbell came around, and where I was circling around about to that is a guy said something that really landed with me. That he said, these negative occurrences in our life. He said, every minus is a plus waiting to happen.
Yep.
With the vertical awareness.
Yes.
And
yes.
I just love that
I like
whole thing
that.
of that.
I like that.
Because this, I just more and more see this. Every negative thing that seems to come about, there's some reason, and and it's only me applying the negative label.
Yep.
Right.
It's only negative if you decide
I
it's
mean,
negative.
Yeah, that's what, man. I'm really trying to drop labels. The problem with labels is that it's part of our communicate. The
Yes.
way we communicate,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So if I don't use words,
Yes, I
can't-
fall into
you know
that
what
too. Yeah, I don't want to call it
It's
this, but
kinda
I
like,
don't have
this
another
is a
word for
bottle.
it.
Are
Right.
you labeling it? Well,
Right.
it's a bottle.
Yes, I agree. I'm with
so
that
these things,
too.
so that getting back to that whole being afraid of death thing, no longer something, and this is another one of these I call miracles. Mm-hmm. And my sponsor and people that are listening to this podcast will hear this, had me start making a miracle list when I started. Now he kind of like when we talk, he's like, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But I heard it.
Yeah.
And so I started writing down these things that were happening to me that
Were
I wanted to
miraculous.
look at as coincidence. You might chalk up as a coincidence
Yeah.
or this kind of thing. And I have a giant big list of them now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just went over 5 years and I don't think of anything. And I coach my people to do it too, because if I didn't have that list,
Yes.
I would forget about them.
Yes.
And sometimes I need to go revisit
Yeah.
that.
Or start
that's kinda
taking them
a
for
long-term
granted.
It's like a long-term gratitude list. I like the tool of the gratitude list thing.
Yeah.
I'm grateful most of the time, so I don't I don't find myself needing to dig myself out of a hole very often.
Right. That's me too. I don't allow myself to get that deep. Yeah. I don't. And that's something else I've learned too.
Quickly.
Well, and when I implement daily practices in my life, I don't I don't wait until I'm depressed to start trying to not be depressed.
Figure out what's going on.
Right. I implement daily, again, meditation, rituals,
If you continue
yoga.
to do
I
this
do.
stuff on this daily basis. It's
On a daily
that's
basis,
one of the
yes.
spiritual axioms in the book. It says that
Yeah.
we're okay as long as we take care of our daily maintenance.
Exactly. Clean your own house. And that's with me. I don't suggest to anybody. Here's what I've learned when I left the fellowship. I got disenchanted with the fellowship. If I had left for that reason and let that be my reason for staying gone, I would probably be drunk. I needed to make sure that I understood that all of my disenchantment. So when people will come to me and say, "Oh, I'm disenchanted with AA, I want to do what you do." It's like you want to. I'm losing my train of thought really bad now. I started implementing, so where some people in the fellowship, where I used to go to a meeting every day, now I have a meeting of a different kind every day. So I didn't just leave the fellowship and say, "Screw y'all, you pissed me off." I left the fellowship and started looking at myself. What am I seeking there that I feel like I'm not getting? Why am I going into my own rabbit hole, if you will, and implementing my own practices that keep me feeling connected and spiritual to my soul self, to my creator, and I wanted to touch on the past life thing really quick, if you don't care, because I do past life regression. So regression means that I would take you into a meditative state, a trance state, if you will. You're very aware and walk you through to explore a past life. Past life recession is where you go to someone and they tell you, "Oh, this was your past life." I don't feel like that does much good. But when you are able to kind of go into a meditation and experience it, you can apply it to your own experience now. And I don't say this because I've read about it. It's in doing it, you see things that's like mind-blowing. You can't make this stuff up. And so what I believe with addiction is if someone comes in, they could work every step. They could do everything that, Joe that's been sober for 50 years, they could do everything exactly as he did it. But they still may not stay clean and sober. And it doesn't mean that they weren't doing it right. We talked about this on the phone. It just means they're not, I don't want to use the word evolved as in I'm more evolved than you, but I may be more evolved in different areas. And so it's just simply not yet, not now. I do believe that we continue to incarnate. And so I believe that when someone dies in addiction, I honor them for, their suffering is over. All that shit is peeled off of them now. They're pure positive energy. And boy, what did they learn? And when they come back around the next time, they will, I don't like to say get another opportunity. But I also understand that when we go into a room and people feel familiar, they're likely part of our soul group, meaning we've had lifetimes with them before. Yeah. And they feel like home. Mm-hmm. We're kind of in the same place in our evolvement, some a little further in certain areas that can, and I like to call it, when you were talking about filling that pool, a baby. No one is crawling around for a baby to watch and say, "Oh, I need to do that." They start doing this because they're feeling something pulling them to start crawling. Yeah. And we have that, and it's a pull to our highest good. Abraham talks about a flow of pure positive flow, and we can put our canoe in any time, wherever we are. And so, and not to get all deep into that, but for me, it did change my concept of death and when someone dies or transitions, even an addict. And for me, I tell people, I'm sorry for your pain, but I celebrate your gain. Because if you're tore open because of this person passing, they made a big impact on your life. Yep. Boy, what you have gained from having them in your life. Right. But the pain, to me, the amount of the pain kind of equals the amount of the love. And isn't that a beautiful thing? Right, yeah.
If you didn't love them, you wouldn't be hurt.
Exactly. Same with hate. But I believe that. If I didn't love you, I can't hate you. It's a contrast. or love the principle kind of thing, the principle that I'm holding on to, the idea. But it becomes it's just very comforting. It's just like with my mother. I was so angry at her for so long after she passed. We were best friends and worst enemies. And now I look at her, she was so amazing and so magical. She was not, culture's idea of mother, but she was, I appreciate her uniqueness now and her ways. But because I have this concept and I work with her now, I believe our next incarnation together is going to be amazing. Because I've forgiven her.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Every relationship is sacred. So that ex and that, the one that damn near, for me, ripped me open, damn near killed me, that relationship, at the time I was like, what the hell? But I see now, like looking back, how it was preparing me for the relationship I'm in now.
Right.
It might have taken more, but thank God it didn't. And I'm in a healthy, happy marriage now, I'm healthy in a marriage. That's what I should say. I'm healthy in a marriage. Yeah. That's a big deal for... and my husband's a retired Marine that now carries crystals in his pockets and talks to trees.
I foo-fooed all this stuff for a while, and I keep crystals on the table because I like it for the energy generation that we have here, and I've had some people, and sometimes I have a little bowl of them, and I don't know why I do what I do. I just follow
it. Feels good.
And Happy had told me, in the beginning, just
feels
let the crystal pick you.
Yes.
I had sometimes some things come out of your mouth, and I don't know where this comes from, but I heard it, and my friend Marshall, who listens to a lot of this, he's got a crystal collection out of this world, and he is he's down in E-Town, Hodgensville area, and he visits that
Akashic Awareness, Mark and Shelley, yeah.
So that's where I know that from. It's from Marshall. And he has to have out of this world crystal collection. It's just crazy.
You should come to my house.
Oh yeah,
I've got a lot of crystals. Yeah.
And so, but when we first met, it was through this podcast. And a friend had heard the podcast, and last year before the retreat, him and his friend had contacted me, and his friend sent me a really heartwarming letter about what the podcast, and heard it and stuff. And again, those are those compass point needle things where you're and doing what you're supposed to be doing, and where you're supposed to be doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
And,
and things are
so
flowing.
I was getting ready to have the retreat, and I invited them to come down, and they did, and then so my buddy Marshall, he told me, and he showed a picture of this crystal that he had, and I said, "Where'd you get that?" And he said, "I found it in my backyard."
Oh wow.
And I'm like, "Oh, 5 crystals in your backyard? What do you mean? Where do you live at?" He said he's got some kind of drainage that they wash out of, and some words come out of me that I still, and we would joke about it, that I don't know. I said, "You didn't find that." He said, "Yes, I did." I said, "It found you." And we laugh about that, and I didn't mean to say that, and I didn't, wherever that come from. But whenever Happy first started, and I did the same thing. I thought, that's pretty, but and there were some things, when and Happy was huge in my growth early on, because I met him on the second night. I went to an AA meeting in March of 2011, and the very next night I was so full of hope after that first one. And the very next night I went to another one, and I was ready to kill myself after coming out of that meeting.
Right.
It's like, where's the liquor store? But there was something in me that told me, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
And these people the night before gave me all these phone numbers, and as hard as that was,
you picked up that
10,000
pound
and I
phone.
called it, and these guys were up in Georgetown, Indiana at McDonald's after the meeting they had just left. And said, "Come on up." It seemed like a long way to go. I remember now. It felt like all the way up there. Couldn't you just be? Because I like it. There's one of the things, and early on I felt like I would just go to these meetings that are really close.
Right.
And that's like the opposite of going to any length.
Right. Yeah.
What are you willing to do to get there? But I met Happy that night. He was up there.
He's wonderful. He's a good friend.
And he's been a part of my, he gave me my 1-year token over here. And whenever, he wasn't sponsoring me, but my sponsor was over there, and he gave it. It doesn't matter. But Happy honor me by doing that. He's also, so Happy's at fault for this.
Yeah, that's funny too, because I told you I just saw him yesterday.
That was a little bit dusty.
That's beautiful.
But he said, "Can you make me one of these out of wood?" And I thought, Yeah, I
That is
will.
great. It's an ohm for you listeners.
Yeah, it's a wooden gnome, and yeah, everybody knows because it's my little signature deal now. And he said, "Well, you make me one of these out of wood," and I
That
did
is
my
nice.
best at making one. It is crude as could be, but I gave it to him that night for giving me my 1 year token.
Yeah.
And then somebody else saw one, and they wanted one. And somebody else liked it, and somebody else, and the next thing you know, I've probably made hundreds of those. And that's like that one
Very
there.
nice.
It means a lot. That, well, that one there I made on the night of New Year's Eve. Sitting out here, it's dated on the bottom of it this year for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And it I was mid process of it as the crack of midnight that night, and because that's what I do for New Year's now is I'm out here
Yeah. Working. Being
playing,
or and it's
creating,
meditative for you
and it
too.
is
Yes,
meditative.
creating is that's what I teach a lot of people too that are stressed. Like, what did you do for fun as a child? Do that.
So that's another gift my sponsor gave me, and it's come about because Happy did this.
Yeah.
And my sponsor was telling me,
Yeah.
We were going to be on home incarceration for a year, and I say we because I really do feel like it was a we thing. I had a bunch of battle buddies helping me along with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And he's like, probably important to find something to do, man. We need to, what did you like to do when you were, what did you
Yeah.
like to do? Well, like these tools
Yep.
have been around in my life, in my grandfather's shop,
Oh wow.
my father, and passed down the way. So I've worked on these things.
Wow.
I use these same tools that are in here, that drill press. You can't see it behind that wood, but there's a lathe over there, and there's some of these tools that are real old like that.
Wow.
And I fell into that, and Happy helped me by asking me to make some, can you do this?
Very
And
nice.
that evolved eventually to this.
Yeah.
And one of the things that my sponsor taught me was he said, to me, his experience,
Yeah.
again, like you said,
Yep.
is that folks that have some creative element in their life
Yep.
that they can do that fulfills their soul, that time disappears when they're doing it.
Yep.
Those people seem to be operating on a different plane of recovery.
Yep. Gets you in
than-
alignment.
Than others.
Yep.
So I would encourage you to cultivate that, and I know
Yes.
guys that paint, and I know people that play the guitar,
Yes.
that
Yes.
crochet, that needlepoint, I woodwork,
Yep. Yes.
and find and tap
focus.
into that creative element
Yes.
in your soul.
Yep.
Because I think it's a there's like these, it's a big jigsaw puzzle, right, that we're trying to put together.
Yeah.
And that's one of
Yeah.
the pieces.
Yes.
Is to have something.
We
And then
lose
one of the
that.
other one of the things that also pings on me when it comes to that, it needs to be something I am not dependent on somebody else to help me with.
Right. Right. Something that's all
You know,
yours.
It can't be like something that I need a
Yeah.
opponent
Yeah.
to play chess.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
it's something that I can do no matter what.
Yeah.
And so that's how that woodworking thing, and
I
that's how
love
this
that.
manifested too. Was
I
this
love
wood
that.
shop manifesting back here because we built this in 2017.
Yeah.
And I really do. It's a pure manifestation of power positive thinking stuff.
Yep.
Was having this back here.
Yep.
And then
I get that.
and then they also have like people coming to me, want me to build, asking me to build them
Yeah.
things, and giving me that green stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
that-
The livelihood.
that somehow or another we need.
or the financial security.
The financial security in
yeah.
order to. So now, like
Yeah.
I'm doing this whole thing where as I allowed myself to be, and we said something about a springboard. Recovery. I was down in that hole. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the judge told me I was going to prison for 6 to 20 years,
Yeah.
and I couldn't imagine that. I just
Right.
couldn't imagine. I was 45 years old,
Yeah. Wow.
and I'm going, no. And that's another one of the checkout things. I said, I will kill myself before I will go to prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
And having this springboard and a sponsor and a support group that allowed me to start thinking in different ways and giving me some new perspective.
Yeah.
That introduced me to new teachers that
Yeah.
started to snowball, because there's an AA speaker I like a lot. He says, I smell more. And I do. I still
Yeah.
smell more.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like getting to this point where I'm in this part of this dream world
Yeah.
where I am sitting out here
Possibilities.
doing that thing.
Yeah.
That was my creative little kid that I did in my grandfather's wood shop when I
Yeah.
had no idea mostly what I was making was sawdust back then.
Yeah.
Right? I was
Yeah.
turning wood into dust.
Yeah. You and blocks. I see you building with blocks and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And then over time, now I'm out here having
Creating.
opportunities to doing that same thing for my livelihood. And isn't that
Yeah.
what people find what you love to do and then be able to make a living
Yep.
doing it?
And I
go,
have to
wow,
touch
man.
too on your. I just love that you have generations equipment from generations, because in my practice and my belief, all of those grandfathers and ancestors they are experiencing through you, like they are coming through you, and like you are them, they are you.
Yep.
And that creative juice, you're flowing with them, and it's beautiful, because I say our ancestors, if we honor them, they help us. If we blame them, they haunt us. And people, I don't know my ancestors. Oh, but you do. You do. And I think that's so cool, just in my
Me too,
foo-foo
and it's
world.
just- yeah, and me too. And it's not
Yeah,
lost on
I
me
love
one
that
little
story.
bit, that while I'm using these tools, that the hands that have been on them.
The energy, the creative energy that is stored, everything holds energy. And
I had an
it's just
opportunity
beautiful.
one time, when these people walk in, and my son was in Scouts for a while, and then he decided that wasn't working for him or whatever, and I was involved in leadership and stuff, and and also at the time when I was on home incarceration, Dustin still was in Scouts, and the Scoutmaster was actually, I had to go tell him.
Yeah.
So he had to sign this piece of paper saying I was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every time I went,
Yeah,
it was part of my
that's
verification
right.
thing, And I
Your
told him that
leash.
he was one of those souls that, just had this, where I thought I would be ostracized, right?
Right.
And actually, this guy knew my problem too, so this wasn't the first time he had known
Yeah.
that I had this going on.
Yeah.
And he just totally, I'll just use the word love because that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
He just loved me with it.
Yeah.
And gave me a knowing grin and
Yep.
said, "Sure, man, I'll sign it. No big deal."
Yep.
I also had teachers in my life that taught me to make that easy. So I filled out all the bullshit on the
Yeah.
form. So all they had to do is go,
Yep. Yep.
"Don't
just
make them
put their
fill out
name.
the form."
Yeah. Yeah.
And he would be sitting there, and I'd be lingering, because I didn't want to. And he'd look at me like, and he'd give me the old need my signature thing. I'd be
Yeah.
like,
I do.
and he would sign that. So where I was going with that story is that sometime I went and he told me, so and so wants to talk to you for a minute. Some kid, some scout, and the kid come up and talked to me and said, "Hey, got a woodworking project I want to do."
Yeah.
And I want to know if you will help me with my Eagle Scout project.
Right. Oh.
And I always, like today, I go, when the old story, when a 3-year-old kid walks up and says with their toy phone, says it's for you,
Yes.
you answer the phone.
Yes.
Well, the
yes.
same thing. Like if this happens in a prospective Eagle Scout, I ask you if you will
Yeah.
help him with his thing.
Yeah.
You say yes.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
timing is I just finished this.
Oh, wow.
This. And he come in one day and he's sitting here and we're building it turned out to be as a POW-MIA,
wow.
there's a table for the missing soldier thing that they built. Well, the VFW in New Albany didn't have anything protecting and honoring theirs. And people would sit
wow.
at it that didn't know what it was, And like
Wow.
the American Legion over here has a big vestibule. I don't even know if that's the right term, but it had
Yeah.
glass walls in it and a
Yeah.
movie theater belt across it, and it was a place of honor.
Real
right?
fancy, yeah.
So that's what he wanted to do down here, and we went and looked at it and come back,
wow.
And so many times, things go. He goes, I've never built one of those before.
But you knew
But
how.
when Happy said, "Can you make me one of these?" I'd never made one of those
That's
either.
what made me, yeah.
And I said yes. Mm-hmm. And when the
Yep.
kid said, "Well, can we do this?" I said, "Yeah." And we're
Yep.
sitting in there one day, and he goes, "How do you know how to do all this?" And there is some like that. I like, and I don't want to foo-foo him too hard, because you
Right. No, but it's-
like
Yeah.
because I have help.
Yeah.
I have some help that you wouldn't understand, really.
Right.
Because when I sit in the shop and I don't know how to do something,
It comes to you.
and it comes to me,
Yep.
And sometimes it means I go up and ask Dad. Maybe that's how
Right.
it comes to
and
me.
and
My
that's
living
exactly
ancestor,
right. It can come
right?
as a messenger in a meeting, at the grocery, if you're open to that. Absolutely.
Yeah,
but it
and-
can also come from not another human, because I have found sometimes if the mentors in my life I keep going to aren't giving me any relief, I need to go to my mentors in the non-physical.
yeah.
As a parent of adult daughters, I have to counsel with my mothers and grandmothers in the spirit world, because everybody's got opinions on parenting.
Yeah.
And being as unconventional as I am, most people don't agree with my methods. And so I get counsel
that too.
from my, I don't beat my kids, but, because they could probably kick my ass at this point. No, my girls are good. My girls are so good. But I have a lot of different concepts of the whole role as mother, and I won't get into all of that because that'd
too,
be another podcast. But it's, what they tell me is I need to take care of myself. Saving my children is not my responsibility.
No, we're alignment
but-
on that too.
Yeah, but you can,
And
you know,
get a
when
little
I'm
bit of people
seeking,
going, I'm not
comfort.
being responsible.
Yeah,
because
or
I'm
how
not,
could
like,
you let,
driving
you know.
my kids and like, you know what?
some of this powerlessness, I
Yep.
think that's where, like, one of the things that I realize how powerless I am,
Yeah.
truly in this little speck,
Yes.
is in the raising of my children.
Absolutely. They're our
to
greatest
think that
teachers.
I am going to make them be something that I need them to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I need to be guardrails.
Right. But they're our greatest teachers. They're mirrors. They teach us about
And
ourselves.
allow them to have their journey.
Yeah,
and they're going to screw
exactly.
some stuff up, and they're going to mess some things up, and they're going to
Yeah.
fail here and there, you know.
And they
I
may
gotta let
not
'em
live
do it.
longer than me, and that's that's my whole teaching too. These human concepts we have keep us boxed in, and I just change. If it doesn't make me feel good, I change it. So
Yeah.
just because that's what I do.
Yeah, I think you get to do that.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
get to do
I
that.
get to write my story today.
I get to rewrite it and write it, and I know that
And if the
I
chapter
have
doesn't
many
work out for
stories.
me, man, I can turn the page and
Many
go,
stories,
okay,
yes.
next chapter.
Yes, and that's how we do have many. And for me, I learned. I want to share really quick a story that's. I don't tell it the same way, but it's something I heard about a pothole. If you move to this beautiful town and there's, the people are just so nice and wonderful, and there's ice cream on every corner, and it's just, there's flowers blooming year round. It's beautiful. But there's a pothole on Main Street, and there's 24-hour news coverage about the pothole, and people will tell you about the pothole if you'll listen. And now you're focused on this pothole, and it's growing, and you're trying to avoid Main Street, so you totally are missing this beautiful new town because you're focused on the pothole.
That's great.
So when my husband will bitch about a driver because he has road rage, or he'll come home complaining, or even myself when I'll be like, oh, there's a pothole.
Yeah, that's great.
It's just
I
a
love that.
pothole.
Yep.
And I'll change my focus. My focus is my superpower. And again, people will say, oh, you're irresponsible. You aren't keeping up with the death tolls. You don't know this. No, but my flowers are so pretty. And my trees are, my birds are showing up every day. If they stop showing up, I'll be worried.
Yeah.
If gravity stops holding my ass to the planet, I'll be concerned.
Yeah.
But until then, everything is just as, I don't understand it, but it's as it's supposed to be.
I agree with that 100%.
And I will not. I refuse to live in fear. I lived in fear my whole life. I was terrified of the dark my whole life until I met my power animal. So if you want to, not you, but people want to say, oh, well, that's just crazy. Well, I can walk around in the dark now, so whatever.
Yep.
I love the dark. My
Me
power
too.
animal gives me ability to see in the dark. So it's just, my spirit guides, all of that, it has become, so for me, the 12 steps got me so far. And then my recovery has taken on this, like I said, I'm recovered from a hopelessness, and I don't have the desire. I think of it like this: when I drink, it lowers my vibration tremendously. It poisons my body. How do I know? Because my body tries to reject it.
Yeah.
I get sick. It cuts me off from my divine guidance, which I am not willing to be cut off from again. I did that once from being a little girl. I'm not gonna do that. So it's not, I don't get, for myself, that is where I help people. I always say it's not about what you do, it's who you're being when you do it. And like you said, I can go into the grocery store and smile and call the person checking me out by their first name, and I've done something kind, So, yeah.
I get to drive my energy pool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can go and carry some positivity in it.
Yep.
And there's a piece of it is like, I want to like carry that to other people also. There's also a self-serving like energy conservation thing going on
Yes,
too.
yes,
That
I
if I carry
shield and
my
protect.
positive energy bubble around with
Yep.
me,
Yep.
the negative doesn't get in it.
Exactly, and you inspire, and that's me. I don't need to get down, I'll hold the light up here for you.
Yeah, right.
But my adult children have taught me that. If getting down in the pit with you would help you, I would get down there with you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to stand up here and hold the light, and this is something I do. I want to share this, something I do for people. I do this with my adult children when I am feeling very powerless and afraid. And I will hold them in my mind's eye as healthy and happy, pure, and I hold them as long as I can in that vibration. And for me, I'll do a little ritual. It might include fire or water. But that is more helpful than judging and trying to force them, you need to act this way so I can be happy, damn it. You're being selfish. Well, no, I'm being selfish because I need you to be a certain way so that my life is not disturbed.
Right, yeah.
Who's being selfish? So it's all just, it's all been, I don't know. It's all just been a wonderful, I'm grateful for the awareness that I have.
Yeah.
And I'm also grateful for all of the experiences, all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is no mistakes. And I'm divine even then, and I'm divine now. Everyone is. We aren't mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That.
Even when we feel like we're making them.
So in parallel with that, the 12 steps certainly were my springboard to pull me up out of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, for me today, my experience is that I'm working those both angles in concert right now, today, in this season. That's another thing I'm always looking at is there's been something hit me about like the season of life, and that,
Yes. That's
th-
a nature teaching.
this relationship is not necessarily meant to last forever,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
This was a season,
Yep.
and there's a new season that comes, and we don't think
Yeah.
although we do have some people out there that complain about the seasonal changes.
love 'em.
I'm like, really? I mean, you want to talk about it's like that rain or weather. If I'm gonna get my emotional status hung up on
Yeah.
what the atmosphere is
Right.
doing,
Right, or what
how
day of the week
crazy,
it is.
what am I
Yeah.
selling out?
Yeah.
How much am I giving away when I'm gonna allow that to be
Yes.
my determining factor?
Yes.
It really sucks today because it's raining.
Or it's Monday. That's what gets
Yeah,
me.
or
Do
what
you know
day
how
of
many
the week
years,
it
how
is?
many days a year you're pissing away because it's a
Because
Monday?
It's Monday. That's another interesting thing is that through this pandemic thing, I notice that's a common theme. People are losing track of what day it is.
And
I
isn't
look at
that
as being
wonderful?
a good thing. Yeah.
Time is irrelevant. Timing is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Happy early on told me, introduced this simple 2-word thing of add to.
Uh-huh.
And then I heard Bob Earl say the same thing, and he said, add to the quality of your life, add to the things of your life that improve the quality of your life in recovery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's again, I'm not pigeonholing recovery as chemical dependency abstinence.
Right. Right.
Recovery is recovering me,
Recovering
my true
you.
self,
Yeah.
finding my true voice.
Yes.
Even though
Yes.
that's a metaphorical voice, and like here on this.
Yeah.
Early on, my sponsor told me, and this is funny, he goes, someday I believe this is when I'm like brand new.
Yeah.
Because Happy did the same thing. They're talking about meditation up there, and I'm going, I don't give a shit about meditation.
Yeah.
I want to know how not to drink tonight.
Right.
tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. You
know,
can't tell
how do I do
someone
that?
Yeah.
And and they're polishing their crystals and sharing them and talking about, cool feel. Can you feel that?
Yeah. Yeah. Get that. I'm going to throw it at you
Yeah.
and you're about to feel it. Yeah.
And other people were saying things, and my sponsor would say to me, and I still remember this echoes. He goes, and he would say these things. It was just like, we're coming off of this fucking shit, Chris.
Yeah.
He said, someday your voice is going to be heard on another level.
Ah.
And I'm
Yeah.
going, okay, man,
Yeah.
what did I do tomorrow?
Yeah.
And and then I look back and I go, wow,
Right.
my
Right.
voice is being heard on this different level.
Yeah.
He goes, and even then he goes, I don't know if that means you're going to be a circuit speaker for AA,
Right,
or
right.
what it means, because
Yeah.
like you said earlier, I don't pray for these outcomes specifically.
Right.
I do ask for guidance and help,
Right. Support.
and
through
then
it,
I
yeah.
allow you to give me whatever that is.
Yes.
He taught me that too. I was
Yes.
getting ready to go. I was going to do home incarceration. They wouldn't let me do it here.
Yeah.
Because I got caught breaking in the house across the street.
Oops.
Yeah, so they was like, you can't do home
There's
incarceration
that.
here. And when so I was going to go live with mom and dad, and 45 years old, and move in back in with mom and dad, so I could do home incarceration there. And and my mom had always struggled with some chemical dependency stuff too. She loved the opiates and the
Yeah.
opioids. And I thought she had stopped. And when I was going over there to clean out the room, she was drooling, chin on her chest again,
Oh,
and she
bless
was
her.
back into that again. That's who I first started stealing them from.
Yeah.
That's
My mom fed them to me. I didn't have to steal them.
yeah.
We were.
Well, mom
yeah.
also, I noticed when I'm real careful about that. And again, I don't blame it at all.
Right,
I do
right.
see it, and I understand what it is. It's like in the book it says cause and conditions and stuff like this and some things. But where's I going with that? So I'm scared shitless because I can't stay sober in that house.
Right.
I can't stay
Right.
out of those things.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to.
Yeah.
She locked them up 6 ways from Sunday, and
You'll
I stole
find
the
a way.
keys, and I found the combination, and
Yeah.
and when I had to, I took a screwdriver and broke the damn box open.
Right. Right.
And I knew that I couldn't stay sober in that house.
Right.
And I walked in, and they knew I was coming, and I walked right back out. Because I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and the first thing and there's these times where I was going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. The night that I broke in the house, they chased me out. I got away.
Wow.
He chased me, but now I'm out on the streets and the cops are here, and he knew where I lived.
Right.
And I'm out there going, I don't know what to do.
Right.
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And there was come a time in my life where I did know at least one thing to do, and that was to call my sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that hit me, and it was like, ding.
Yeah.
Call him. So I called him, and I'm flipping out. Of course, he don't never flip out. And, and he goes, well, man, he gave me this real weak, what I thought to be real weak solution to what was going on.
Right.
Because I couldn't, and he goes, well, you can't go back to the judge now and change the deal.
Yeah.
You can't go back to the till and go, got one little problem.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And he said, what I would do is, he said, it's be a chance for you to rely on this power we talk about, and whatever it is, just pray that this power will help support you in your recovery, man.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really weak advice. I was like, you got to give me something better
Oh,
than
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah. I know.
And so, but I did that because
Yep.
I kept on doing whatever he told me to do, and things were keeping on getting better,
Yep.
right? Because I was going to go
Yep.
to prison, and I did what he told me to do.
You
And
were
now
still
I'm on
out
home
of prison.
incarceration,
Right. Right.
And those were miracles to me.
Yep.
And I did that, and I went down to the courthouse, and beforehand they write you in, and listeners will know this, but I like sharing it anyway, and I don't think these stories can be told enough, because these are the miracles that happen when, that's a power of positive thinking thing, right?
Right,
That's starting
right.
to manifest something of going, okay, help me. That's
Yep.
also a surrender to this nature, this power, whatever's out there.
Exactly.
Going, hey, I'm laying myself down for you here.
I'm
'cause I don't
trusting.
have anything else to do
Right.
at the moment. Frankly, it's not, I am trusting, but it's more of like, I'm out
I ain't
of
got
options.
nothing else to. Yeah, I'm trusting because I have no choice.
But how many times
yeah.
has that happened to us that we have to hit that? That's
Yep.
like the proverbial bottom of where I'm hit a wall and I don't know where
Right.
else to go.
And it seems
that's when I
hopeless.
fall down to go, help.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I go down there, and beforehand, you go back and sign the papers to make sure that this plea agreement is what you said, and then
Yeah.
you go out in front of the court and do it formally. It's like, what's this little game thing we do?
Right.
And I go there and I read, and it says you will serve 1 year of home incarceration at, and had this house's address in that paperwork.
Oh, wow.
And that was not the deal.
Wow.
And what I do, I
Wow.
walked out of there. I don't remember any more of that. That hit me so much like a frying pan
a
in the
miracle.
head.
Yep.
But I didn't know what it was at that moment. I had
Yep.
no fucking idea what it was at that moment. I
Yep.
look at that, and I think they screwed up, and I'm going to have to tell them. But I don't do anything for now. I just
Yeah.
I go through the motions, and I walked out of there, and I like, Chris,
Yeah.
they screwed up that stuff. And he starts laughing. And I'm like, this is not funny, man. What do I do with this? And he uttered these words for the very first time that I can remember. He said, you know what that is, don't you? And what my thing is, I need to be real smart.
Right,
And I need to
right.
tell you
So
about
you're
what
trying to get
all
the
it
right
is,
answer.
I will tell you
Right.
what it is. Of course I know.
Right. And you
And,
give this big
He
explanation.
joked around at this time, and he said, the correct answer to that is no spons. What is it? Tell me. And so he said, what have you been praying for all week? Mm-hmm. And I'll cry telling this story because it touched me to that level.
Yeah.
What have you been praying for all week long? And I remember thinking about it, going, for my higher power to support me in my recovery.
Yep.
And I had friends in AA tell me it's a program of honesty, rigorous honesty.
Right.
And that I should go down there and fix that. And my sponsor told me that would be undoing God's work.
Yep.
I started learning some things about what that started, those miracles and the stuff that you go,
Yep. Because you didn't
'Cause I will.
manipulate and con to get it
I know
changed.
that I wouldn't these emotions wouldn't flare
Yeah.
if that ain't real,
It was
right?
a moment. Yep.
And still
Yeah.
here, over 5 years later,
Yeah.
I'm still touched when I look at that, and that is one of my, it's one piece of my story that
God moments,
that I share with another person.
Yeah.
That I get out of the bag and go,
Yeah.
here's what happened for me when I started trusting that the universe was out to help me,
Yeah.
not to hurt me.
Yeah,
That I
and it's
wasn't
getting
up
out of the
against
way
this.
of it. It's not that you're favored or that you deserve it more than the next person. It's that you allowed it.
Yep.
You had someone encouraging you to allow it,
I had a
and
fantastic
you
teacher that
allowed
allowed
it
me
because
to do
you
that.
would have tried to manipulate, lie, do whatever to get the outcome you wanted. But when you just allowed it to be what it was going to be, things are always working out for us if we will get the hell out of the way.
Yep.
And
it
stop
just kept
trying
on
to
doing it, and it just kept
Yeah,
on
it's
being-
wonderful.
And that's that dependence that I've learned to rely. I mean, I
Yeah.
always say that we say some things about like a relationship with our higher power. And that's all pretty cool, but for me, it's more important that I have this reliance on
Yeah.
it, that I know,
Yeah.
because like when things are going bad,
Yeah,
I know today that that's not really bad.
it's your
I
perception
just
of
gonna
it.
have to wait and see what else is coming.
Yep.
This
Yep.
feels a little whatever. Same thing with this pandemic and
Yep.
whatever. All these.
Yep.
I just don't get. That will bother people in our lives, right? Because they want us to get emotionally.
That's what I've been called irresponsible because
charged
I'm not
on
so.
that because
Yeah.
you don't even care.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
What do you
care
mean?
about society?
Yeah, right. What
Yeah.
about all the grandmothers and grandfathers that are going? Oh, I've had someone. I've had to just stop having conversations with some people.
Me too.
That basically told me I'm a murderer because I don't get the flu shot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, no. We die. People are going to die because that's what we're designed to do. Not talking about the pandemic in general, but I mean, I just don't fall into that when someone tells me to do something because of using death as their trump card.
Yeah, because when I boil that down and I look at that, like when that moment happened, I just shared about, where I get out of the way.
Yeah.
And my tendency is to want to like get back in the way
Yep.
by making this stuff and taking these actions that's going to make things happen. But,
Yeah.
but I have this list and that's part of but those are real fundamental stuff in what I call my miracle list, or those
Right.
kind of events.
Right, exactly.
And I have this history.
Yeah.
And some people, if I get
Proof
that
is in the
list out and
pudding.
tell it to certain people,
Yeah.
it's too much.
Yeah.
Right? You say that's a bunch of you're making shit up there.
Yeah. Or it's a coincidence.
Yeah, they're all,
They blow it
this
off.
big list is
Yeah.
all those
Yep.
really.
Yep. That's just like paranormal activity.
So I go, look,
yeah.
so far I've been carried,
Yep.
and nurtured in this journey. Why do
Yes.
I believe that today is going to be any different?
Exactly. That's the way I look at it too. Only time I fell on my ass is when I was doing the driving.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Yeah. And then, like you said, when I'm on my ass, something always lifts me up. I want to share with you my story really quick about the house I live in right now. When you were talking about building this and the story you just told, my husband and I rented a house for 9 years. I had filed bankruptcy and lost a house in foreclosure. And I used to tell people, I will not live long enough to clean up my credit. Now that's a true story because I told it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
believed it, so I made it. And for 9 years, my husband and I rented. And then I used to say, I will never put myself in that position again because I lost my house by no fault of my own. Like I even got a check later from the mortgage company. Oops, sorry.
Oh yeah.
$3,000 here. Sorry, because after my divorce, I couldn't refinance because I was a single female self-employed, and even though I made the money, and it was all a big mess. So I literally walked away from it, and I would say I'm never going to put myself in that position to lose everything again. Because see, in my perception, I had lost everything: my home, my dog, my marriage, my kids moved. Like in my perception, I'd lost everything. But it was my dark night of the soul. Everything fell away. So I meet this man. We move in together. We rent for 9 years. And I start feeling this pull, that pull to crawl, that pull to walk. And I tell my husband, I said, I think I want to sell everything and just go on the road. I want to be a gypsy. I'll do readings. You can do odd jobs and we'll just travel. And I'll be a gypsy. And we'll start a gypsy caravan. And my husband knows me and I manifest quite deliberately, and he's like, oh shit, because he's ready to settle down. He's 30 years in the military. He's ready to settle down. But he'll follow me wherever I go. So he's like, here we go. So I got this intuitive pool. It's like you need to go to the ocean. I hadn't been to the ocean in years, and I'm a survivor of melanoma, so the sun is not, I don't hang out on the beach like I used to. But I was being called to the ocean, so I listen to those. Like you were saying, it's fun to me, like following the yellow brick road or picking up the breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
So I don't question it. I'm like, we're going to go to the beach. Which beach are we going to go to? I start listening, and an attorney I know said something about Gulf Shores. I had never been there. So, okay, booked us a place. It was a close beach. I went and bought this journal at Bernheim, which is one of my favorite places on the planet. And it says deeply rooted. It's handmade leather. It's beautiful. Started journaling in that. And I do automatic writing. So I'm on the beach and I'm doing automatic writing, and I hear this voice. You're ready for your forever home. Now I know forever is a loose term, but I'm like, what? You're ready for your forever home. But I'm not going to get myself in that position again. You're ready for your forever home. But I'm a gypsy, don't you know? I'm a Rolling Stone. You're ready for your forever home. Okay. That was in October. We moved into our dream home Thanksgiving weekend of November. I got on Zillow. We looked at 3 or 4 different houses, and the first one was like a cottage in the woods. I'm like, oh, this is it. Brad, look at all the trees. Oh, this is it. It needed all kinds of work, and my husband can take a gun apart really fast, but he's not a handyman. And he can't do those things. So we were like, no. And we're getting a VA loan, so there's a lot of loopholes. We find a house in Lebanon Junction, which is way south of here, and it's got a great yard, same floor plan as the house we live in. It's bigger, and we're going to make an offer on it. On the drive home, I hear this voice. You need to look again, and you need to look higher. No, you need to look again. You need to look higher. So we get home, and I start looking, and my husband's like, what are you doing? He's over the whole house hunting thing. I was like, I'm being told to look again. We already found a house, he says. I'm like, but I got to listen to him. I'm being told to look again and look higher. So I put in a higher price range, and this house pops up. I told him, I said, I got to look at this house. And he's like, okay. And it's 5 minutes from his work. So I call my realtor. I want to look at this house. And she says, I'll meet you there. And I tell my husband, I'm meeting her on your lunch break. And if it's nothing, you don't need to meet me there. But if it's something, you'll need to meet me there. As soon as I walked in the back door, I knew I was home. And I have moved. I went to 4 different high schools. My mother moved every year. If the lease was up or the boyfriend changed, we moved. I've moved a lot. I knew I was home. This house was built in the 1800s. It is in a subdivision, but it's the original farmhouse that the subdivision was built around. Getting a VA loan on a house built in the 1800s is a fucking miracle.
Yeah.
Okay? All of it. I'm getting chills talking about it. I created a crystal grid because that's what I do, and I put on the paper, if it be in the highest good of Bradley and I, the house and I put the address, we shall be the stewards of the house and the land. Not the owners, the stewards, if it be in the highest good. And I would activate that grid every time we had to get a structural engineer. We had to pay for all this extra stuff. It passed with flying colors. Wow. This house, it was like it called us to it. Yeah. I can't even explain it. It's like it took up side. The man who owned it at the time had bought it for an investment, and he was not a real nice person. And the house and the land, anyone that's been to it can tell you, it is just, it's sacred land. And it sits, Floyd's Fork circles the subdivision. And I did some research, and it was sacred land to the Native Americans that were once there. Yeah, and there were a lot of bloodbaths there because they would fight for that land because it was so sacred. It is just, so we moved in, and I work out, I do healing work there. It's like this house has, it has brought out so much in both of us. Like for the first time, he has his own yard. So all this creative landscaping stuff's coming out in him. And for myself, I'm content sitting still. Like I want my energy and stuff to go into investing in this place, but I don't own it. Yeah. And it doesn't own me. I'm not going to lose anything. If people say, are you going to live there the rest of your life? Hell, I don't know. I'm here today. But if I have to move, I'm not going to look at it as I'm losing anything. I'm going to get excited. Where am I going now? Because every time I've landed in a comfortable, thank goodness, I've landed in a comfortable place when I allow myself to look at it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I get that pull, that calling. And we're the stewards of the house. And when you're talking about hunting, we have moles. And my husband and I have had this, he wants to get rid of the moles. And I say, we did not move here to destroy anything. They were here before we were. We have the prettiest yard, but when you walk on it, there's parts and there's tunnels. But I told my husband, so in shamanic practice, I journey. And so I have journeyed and I have met with the moles, okay? Oh, that sounds weird.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And we had this wonderful meeting, and the moles have let me know our yard is so beautiful because of the work they're doing underground, the grubs and things. And if we run them off, they will be killed. They told me that if you put my husband wants to use the things that send tones that run them off, and because I won't let him kill them.
Yeah.
And they told me if you do that, your neighbors
Somebody
will
else
kill
kills.
us. And just yesterday or 2 days ago, my husband was talking to the next door neighbor and his wife, and the lady said something about seeing the mole things in our yard. And my husband says, yeah, but we're letting them do what they do. They're just doing what they do. And
the
she
moles do
said,
mole things.
Right, that's what they're doing. They're being moles. And her husband has these horrible traps that, I don't even want to say it. It cuts them in half. So my husband told me that. And I said all the time, do you really want to do that to the moles? He said, no. So we let them be, you know. But we have this relationship with this house that is just so weird. But we've had some activity there, and it's like and I work with the spirits of the land and the spirits of the house. And after we moved there, because I put it out there. I was so curious, like you got to come see it because of your woodworking. You would love.
Yeah.
You would love.
Yeah.
The living room has 7 layers of crown
molding. Have all
molding.
this electricity piled in here to do that stuff. That stuff was made on a whole different level.
It's 7 layers of crown molding. It's got a cellar, dirt floor cellar. It's just got so much character and charm that houses built new construction doesn't have. So I had all these questions like, who lived here? Who built this? What is this house? It's such a beautiful gem. So don't you know, I'm talking to someone in the town, and they know that the man that bought it in 1955 is in the assisted living home right down the street. And I call up there, and he's deaf but reads lips. He's 80-something years old. He lets me come visit. He tells me the whole history of the house, gives me VHS tapes of the remodel of the house.
Oh, cool.
The house told me its story. And it's just been a beautiful experience.
That's that like compass needle stuff where it's in
Yes.
alignment or all that don't happen.
In alignment, and it just all flowed, and so now here I am
It's like
living in a
there's
house.
a little analogy, it's like these higher power pat on the back kind of things,
Yeah.
that like nudges
Yes.
me that goes, oh, yep, that's
Yeah.
the right thing.
Life can be
That's-
good when I get the hell out of the way and quit being pissed off at everybody. Yeah.
I do, sometimes I don't know what. I should not question it because that's what I'll find sometimes. Instead, I'll start like looking at the whys and stuff, And you were saying something about earlier about like it happening for you, and other people think it won't for them or whatever. Sometimes, sometimes I have this little bit like a survivor guilt kind of thing, and I don't know if that's the right term, but there's a thing.
Yeah, I
where
know what you're talking
so
about.
many things good have happened to me in the past little bit.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sometimes, and I'm also.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about the women's circle thing earlier,
Yeah.
is that something specific inside a program, or is that just something you do?
No, it's something I do. I call it the Divine Feminine.
Okay, cool.
And I started it in my house.
I know some other people
and-
that refer to these women's circles, and it's underneath of a
Yes.
Within program or something
Yes,
like that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
Women, yeah. And it's not, we don't come and talk about our problems. We come and raise our vibration. We don't get in the trenches and talk about our problems because I feel like regardless of the problem, the solution is.
Yeah, like you said, the potholes. You
Yeah,
focus on that,
yeah.
and that's what you'll get.
And
I
we're
see
gonna
that,
drum and
drumming.
sing. Yeah.
My sponsor was so good at modeling that, and I do the same thing with the people I'm working with, the guys that honor me to allow them to take them through this work and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I'm actually sponsoring females in the TSSR thing.
Yeah.
We've crossed the gender thing. I'm like, I'm solid enough. I'm not looking at my motives are pure. I'm not,
Right,
all I'm gonna do
right.
is just help you if you want.
It
If
can-
you've asked me to help you,
Yeah.
you do. to some extent, I'm like, do I really have an option to say no? You know,
Right, right.
You sent them.
And that's the way I work
not
too.
me.
It's people. I just put it out, and then people are attracted. Yeah.
But to give that same thing to like
Yeah.
bump you up out of that rut of that negative, it's always what the next shoe's going to fall, and I'm never going to be able to. And I'm, you know, and this is, and it's like. Somehow or another, we got to distract you out of that thought pattern.
Yeah.
We got to get you up out of that, you know, and we
Yeah.
start pointing out some good stuff that's happening. But, and totally, I just lost my train of thought when I started jumping over there into that other program. Sometimes it happens.
It
I don't
happens
worry
a
about
lot
that
to me
either.
lately. I like to joke and say it's
Oh,
because
the
I'm always
circle
in the
of,
moment.
so I keep on like getting called, like yoga teacher training called me, whatever.
yeah.
It was an awesome experience.
Yeah.
It introduced me to some things. It's actually where I saw that Finding Joe. They showed me that Finding Joe movie is what it's called. And it's on YouTube for free. And
I
it's Joe
probably
Campbell.
watched
It's
it too because I did the same
You
training.
may have, you know, and I don't know how
Like
much
the
they
last day
change it and
towards
stuff.
the
Yeah, they had
end.
a movie night thing.
Yes, we watched
And
it.
that
I
really
just
touched
didn't
me,
remember
and
the
that had me
name.
go
Yes.
looking at it deeper, and
Yep.
and that's where the thing
Yep.
about the plus, the minus is a plus waiting for vertical awareness.
Yes.
And, so that, and then you know, some time went by, and I started seeing some guys that had some lights on that I didn't understand or didn't, but I saw it, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and these dudes turned out they were participating in this thing called the Mankind Project.
Okay.
And it's a men's work thing, and you know, and it was at the time I first saw it, and they were asking some guys and were inviting me, but I was in yoga teacher training, and I knew time's not right now. You
Right.
know?
Yeah, that was pretty
And,
involved,
all the
wasn't
time
it?
I go, okay, yeah. And, you know, and then when I get touched on this stuff, though, I can like put it up on this shelf and know that that's up there for me someday when
Yes.
the time is ready, when
Yes.
the time is right.
You'll know.
That will come around. You know, I'm interested in maybe doing some Reiki kind of training and doing
Oh,
some
you
of that,
should.
you know.
Yeah.
But right now it's on
Yeah.
the shelf for something to do later, you know, because
Yeah.
it falls in the category of that add to. Mm-hmm. You know? And there's a lot
Absolutely.
of those laying out there. Actually, they're endless.
Yeah,
There's
you'll know when
endless
it's time.
those
And I teach psychic
opportunities.
training if you're interested in that. It's different than Reiki, but
Yeah.
we'll talk off the
Yeah,
the record.
So all those little things, well, Mankind became something that I could, you know,
Yeah.
was the door. You know, what I said, I kept on looking over there, and the door wasn't open.
Yeah.
It might be cracked, but it
Yeah.
wasn't open. And one day I looked over, and it was exposed. The doorbell rang again, you know, and I
Yep.
looked, and the door was all the way open.
Yep.
And I went and did that, you know, and it taught me a lot of new tools and put some new tools. Now, do I subscribe to all of it? Like, you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
same thing with any of this? No.
Yep,
And I had to be real
exactly.
careful with take what I like and leave the rest. I had
Yeah.
to be careful with what I'm doing with that.
Yes, absolutely.
But there's certainly a piece of that in everything.
Yes,
Some of that,
absolutely.
So a
If it
lot of
doesn't
the-
feel
we bring our
right.
problems, because you know, you said don't bring your problem. You know, y'all don't do that. You know, and I understand. I'm not like
Yeah.
I'm not like debating that. But you know, there's also some kind of thing where I got this, and I don't know where it came to me, but like this releasing of negative energy through
Mm-hmm.
safe people,
right.
where they can bring me their problem and
Yes.
bitch up a storm.
Yes.
And I look like Mankind has taught me to put my shield up and not try to
Yeah.
help them and not try
It's called
to
holding space.
holding space. That's same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like just saying okay.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
and that's why you know, and they'll go, I'm sorry to have to dump all this negative Nancy stuff. You know, I'm like
Yeah.
no. that's
I
what I'm
can
here for.
handle it.
Tell me.
Yes, yes.
You know, you dump that negative energy, because as long as you
Yes.
keep it bottled up in you,
Yes.
it's like poison.
Yes,
you know?
I
So
agree.
just,
I agree.
Puke
Yes.
it out. Get it out. And,
Yes.
And it's funny that, you know, so many times those things will end, and the podcast will end like that a lot of times too, with a sigh.
Yeah.
You'll hear, you know, they'll go, you feel better now, don't you? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, or it'll happen here, you know, and somebody will be like, done.
Yes.
Because I don't ever stop this thing.
Yes.
But like they will stop and they'll go, I think that's about it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's
yeah,
all
I knew
had to
before
say.
you said that.
Yeah.
That side told me
Yep.
that was about it.
And that's what
it.
I do love to hold space for people. And that's what I found was when my women's circle, I give them other opportunities for that to come with problems. But I was real deliberate in my intention
I totally understand.
of this not being
This
that.
space is for that.
This is, yes,
We have a space for
I'm
this.
here for you if you want to reach out to
Right.
me. But this is where we're coming together as women and lifting each other up, because I'm telling you, I have been assaulted by a lot of men in my life, but I've been hurt worse by judgment from women and non-support from women. Maybe because I expected more from them. I'm not sure where that, you know what I mean? But women can really, really not have each other's back. And it's not personal. It's because they don't know. But I like to bring people together, and I encourage the women, when you leave here, you might be drawn to tell, if someone says, how was it? You might be drawn to say, well, this girl talked too much and this one did that and this. I want you to deliberately not do that.
Yeah.
And lift everyone up that you came in. Because when you get a bunch of women together, I'm not going to like all of them. But I'm in a place now I can love every one of them in spite of. You know, I don't need to like you, don't need you to like me. But I love you because I don't need anything from you.
Yeah.
That's
So the vibe I always try to bring to my retreats that I have down there is of lifting up of one another.
Lifting
there
up,
is some
yeah.
space, and I always, somehow or another, I always want to include some new people that get to experience that brotherhood, and again, it's, this you were talking about the divine feminine.
Yes, yeah.
There's also a piece of me, and that's what some of mankind was, is to also embrace my masculinity, because that's another element that's going on to like try to take. I feel like some of that's trying to be like taken away from me to where I can't be a man anymore because
the ideas that have been told. It's finding that masculine, feminine balance
and being healthy. And that's what mankind's about, is being healthy masculine. Embrace that and make it healthy and still vulnerable.
Yes.
And still,
and kind and generous.
And have all that. And yet still maintain, your strength and your power. And all that. So I try to, every time I get these tools from someplace, because, first time I had this retreat, it was 12-step recovery, because that's all I knew.
That's all you knew, yeah.
Nowadays, it's 12-step
expanded.
recovery, it's mankind, it's yoga, it's, so every time I do that, I bring more to the table.
Yes,
and I used to be high, I used to discount my own value.
Yes.
One of the things that the mankind thing says is, don't hide your gold.
That's what I
want
do
to
too.
hide my gold. Whatever, I don't want to show it.
Yeah.
And I'm learning more and more and more that no, my goal is to be just like that thing I started out with about the concrete being cracked off of the Buddha thing.
Right.
And the gold's underneath.
Yeah.
It's actually my job to some extent.
And nobody can do it but you, because nobody can be you except you.
Right, yeah. And keep on bringing these tools, and I go, but I go, who are you to have a retreat and like talk about this stuff like you know something?
I went
what
through
do you
that.
know?
Yeah, I still can go through that.
Yeah, and but that's that course correction thing, right? I can quickly go.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be doing it if you're not.
Yep.
Look at all these guys that want to come.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding with my teachings and stuff. Like, who are you to teach on this?
TV stuff. That's what Joseph Campbell talks about. Like this archetypal storyline. It always is everywhere. Really, every story is this pretty much. You know? And you look back and start going like, build it and they will come.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a movie line.
That's the way I'm feeling right now. I'm making transitions in my life, and I'm putting a lot of trust.
The Yellow Brick Road earlier.
Yeah, trusting that it will.
He uses that story as a part of this, to just skip along and go, okay, I'm just going to trust this path.
It will light up. It like pings, like you said. Little things will light up, and it feels right.
Yeah.
It feels right. Just like when with you coming on, I saw you on Facebook. There are times in my life where meeting someone in a wood shop behind their house would have not felt like a real good idea. You know what I'm saying? A stranger. But
right.
I mean,
absolutely. And I'm real sensitive to that when I invite people.
Of course.
I say, if you want to bring
my
a
husband
friend,
even said, "You feel all right?" I said, "I totally feel all right."
If you want to bring a friend, you want to bring, do that.
But I trust that. I trust that. And what I find with a lot of women and men too is that we stopped trusting our intuition. Shit went sideways, and then we said we don't have intuition. Well, you have it, you just didn't trust it. You stopped using it.
Yeah.
And
most of the time, like you said, you
got
like
that.
Even when I first used some dope and alcohol, I remember
something in you's like,
this
is
is
a good
probably
idea.
not a thing to do.
And you dismissed it. Or in relationships, those bad relationships.
Probably not the thing to do.
You had those red flags, but you were like, oh, this will be fun. So it's learning to. I was going to say something else and I totally lost it. But I did. I used my intuition and trust that. I don't remember what I was going to say. I do want to drum a song before we end.
Me too.
I brought my drum.
So this is real. On Saturday night at our bonfire, I have a special meeting and a little gimmick I do about my Saturday night meeting down there.
Yes.
But then afterwards we have
s'mores and
fun.
And we do a drum circle around.
Fun.
And sometimes the guy's drum is a bucket upside down.
That's all
with
you
a
need.
Stick,
You can beat two
That's
sticks
what I see.
together.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Anything.
My first rattle was a jar with beads
Happy
in it.
introduced me to my first one of those. Him and a gal he used to be with had a thing up about St. Francis. Some kind of enlightenment type of day.
I just bought 10 drums from Happy yesterday for when we're able to reconvene my women's circle. I'm going to take it outside to the city park and we're going to drum.
That's fun.
And I've never taught a drumming circle. And part of me is like, oh, you need to. And no, we're not. It's not going to be formal. It's going to be a medicine. And drum is good medicine. It brings you into alignment. It's the heartbeat of Mother Earth, so it gets our heartbeat, our rhythm in alignment with that. It is.
Happy introduced me at first one, and I didn't know what that was. It's still back one a little bit. I was way more doubtful than I am about things than I am today. And it happened up there, and somebody coached us through it, and we did it, and then you start realizing, you start hearing this, because at first it's ruckus.
Yes, bunch of noise, people
happens.
beating. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like it almost like turned into a song, and then we would fade, and something would go, and it wouldn't be anymore.
Yeah.
And it was just waved in and out, and we had a blast up there.
Yes.
I did the same thing. I said, well, I'm going to do one of them at this retreat,
Yeah.
And I was like, but I don't have no idea,
Yeah.
I don't know how to do this, but we just started doing it.
Let them just do it. That's
yes. And it was fun, and man, it's
it brings something, I don't know.
Real primal.
It does. That's the word I was going to use, primal. And it connects us. It makes you want to stomp your feet and move your body. It's just the drum, something about a drum. So I want to introduce you to my drum. My drum's name is Freebird. And so what that means is when I got this drum, I journeyed with it and I met the elk because it's made from elk skin.
Oh, cool.
And it gave me its name, and you can see the markings on it. To me, it looks like birds flying off the drum.
I see that, yeah.
So, and it along
cool.
the lines of what you were saying when you hunted, animals don't look at death like we do. It's not so personal. It's not the end of anything. And this elk, the elk, the spirit of elk is honored to be a medicine drum. What a gift to be. And something else I like to talk on is the life cycle. So we think it's life and death. Everything is reborn once it's, even our relationships, when one dies, we're moving on to create and birth another relationship and in another. So with the elk, it died in the physical form, but it's reborn as a medicine drum. What an honor.
Yeah, right.
The elk also explained to me, I got visions of the elk being eaten by the lion. What an honor to be chosen to sustain the king of the jungle, They don't take it, animals don't take it personal like we do. So this drum does it sound okay on there? So I work on this drum. I love this drum. And I don't let anyone play this drum, so that's why I bought other drums for people. And I wanted to do a song that is it's for Mother's Day, but I also want to, with my beliefs, every man, every woman has masculine, feminine energy, and it's finding that balance. Most women are too much in their masculine energy, meaning they're doing. They're not allowing. Sometimes we don't let ourselves be nurtured as mothers. It's like everybody else is important. If there's anything left, I'll take care of me. Mm-hmm. And with men, as you said, they're in the masculine doing, problem solving, all that. And they aren't allowing themselves to be nurtured or to be vulnerable. So it's finding that balance of the masculine and the feminine. Don't know why I got off on that. Oh, the song. So it's about women, but you can apply it to yourself if you're a man too. And may all mothers know that they are loved, and may all sisters know that they are strong. just for all the mothers and daughters and sisters and fathers who are mothers and all of that. They are loved. They are holy. They are sacred. I love that song because may all mothers know that they are loved regardless of what society has told them. And sisters are strong. All of us are strong and are worthy and we're beautiful. Men and women. But I thought that would be appropriate for Mother's Day.
That is beautiful. I was just, it's another thing I used to want to shake off. Well, my whole body's buzzing. And while you're singing that, whatever that is, I really don't know what it is that comes up the back of my neck and into my back of my head. It just as, you couldn't. I don't know that it's capable of giving me some kind of pleasure feeling,
right?
That would beat that.
Right,
what I feel during that time. It's makes me want to do the thing of when you rub a cat and they just
yes,
go, oh, and they just lean into you you're
yes.
just oh man, will you never stop? And
right.
It just feels, and I never knew what that was. I actually can cultivate it now and just allow it. I just don't want to fight it.
Yes.
And I look back, I didn't know what it was. I thought there were some things going on early on when I was a kid, maybe there was something, my sexuality was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it didn't fit the
stuff.
mold.
Right, yeah. That, why am I feeling this? And I wanted to back away from it. But I've had it, and that just had me lit up like crazy. That was beautiful.
Cool.
That's so cool. So cool. I'm
Thank
just on
you.
fire on how neat that is. And the words, it gets to be like I was saying earlier, there's absolutely no words I've got that can say what that. Mm-hmm. That spirit
it's drum medicine.
It is, and there's some magic in that. It's just.
That's what I'm finding. Yep. Yeah.
I've quit. Questioning.
You were not capable of comprehending, but just accept it.
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
And experience it and lean into it that.
Yep. And be grateful of your awareness.
And it is a beautiful sounding drum too, and your voice is beautiful both. But
that drum
the two
is
together.
special.
As soon as you hit it right off the bat, it was like,
yeah.
I was like, whoa.
It's a special drum. Most drums would not have sounded that good in a cold room like this. Most of them you have to heat up by a fire.
It has gotten a little chilly.
No, it's not cold, but you know what I mean. They have to be warm. And so you'll sometimes, especially deer skin, it affects. So a lot of people in this area, the humidity, it sounds real dull. Mm-hmm. And that drum, it holds its. I don't know if it's because it's elk. Or the great craftsmanship. I bought this at a powwow from a man who made drums and flutes and things. Never have seen him again. It was about 5 years ago.
That's interesting too.
Yeah, and it's just because everybody's like, "Where'd you get your drum?" I'm like, well,
I don't really know. Some dude.
It called to me, it's my drum, but yeah, it's part of my medicine, and that's what I'll drum for healing. I don't say healing. I'll drum to support the planet in its time of change and evolvement. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's another thing. Was a bell ringer earlier, and the same on that using that word evolved. I'm real careful, I'm not placing us on a scale.
Right, that's what Abraham's like. That's like a shitty way of saying I'm better than you, and it's not. Yeah, it's not. We're all in different places as we should be.
It's because at 14 I wasn't as evolved as 16 in some ways.
Right. Exactly.
It's just along the path.
Yeah. Your awareness. And I think, like I said, in different...
a derogatory term almost.
Different... I never think I'm more evolved than someone else. I may just... It's where I'm at in different areas. Like, someone that's successful financially could say they're more involved than a homeless person, but a homeless person may be able to identify plants and live off the land and is more resourceful. So it's not that's why I don't think of it as I'm further along than you. But it's kind of, in this part of awareness, I'm along. You have to, I wanted to ask you, when you did the Baptiste teacher training, did you not feel like you were kind of ahead of the class because you'd worked the 12 steps?
Yeah, by a long shot.
Right?
And I really had to hold back on that.
Right.
Because I was like, take away from anybody else's stuff.
Exactly.
Or,
but it's like,
on their journey.
And not that I'm better. I didn't feel like I was better than them. It gave me an awareness of how far I had come, for one thing. And wow, my journey could be a real tragic story, but on the other hand, it's pretty flippin' amazing. And my awareness, the contrast I have that some people just didn't get to experience. Does that mean they would trade me places? Probably not, because I can tell stories that are pretty tragic and horrible, but to me, they're mine. They're my story, and I see the nugget of gold in every one of them. So yeah.
It's again, I can't. And Christopher listens to all my podcasts, and he's one of my biggest fans. And
Yeah.
he coaches us along, and he's been on it a number of times too, and always supports me if I don't have a guest. Man, me and you can put something together.
Right?
And
I'll come talk.
yeah,
That's be me.
and he's also, he's got a book that he's written on the 12 Steps for Everyone. He's read this
Nice.
where he looks at like some of the ways this stuff manifests in you. We just call it spiritual sickness and not spiritual sickness like religion. We're real clear about that.
Yep. Yeah.
Your very spirit,
Yes.
you
Yes.
have been sickened, and
Yes.
whatever that means to you, whether if you want to use the word disease, we talked about that.
Right.
Or my spirit, I like the term, my spirit was stepped on.
I like that.
know.
Dormant. I like to say my soul was dormant.
and all those things work, right?
yep.
And sometimes some person needs to hear one thing and they reject the other. And I'm
Exactly.
saying the exact same thing.
Yep. Exactly.
But on how these different things hit you, you talked to when you first started talking. You talked about peer groups and how that when you came to school and learned that this stuff was what wasn't and wasn't okay.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with you.
Yep.
It was that.
Yep.
And and we get into a work life and the same stuff happens. You start figuring out, and we
Yeah.
have this ability to manipulate in our environment so that we feel like we're okay. But most
Right.
of the time, for me, it was always like a step in the wrong direction, but
Yeah.
I was still taking it because
Yep.
because when I looked around, it looked like that's what everybody else was doing.
Exactly. Exactly. And I didn't trust my own
Yeah, I
judgment.
couldn't come over here because that was leaving me out here alone.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
can't have that.
Or I was letting all of y'all tell me my worth and where I belonged.
So like in AA, where we set up a beginning of it in
Yeah.
Alcoholics Anonymous book, it talks about so you can relate to how the alcoholism and
Yeah.
substance abuse has affected you. In the beginning of his book, he talks about how these other influences have
Yeah.
caused you to maybe be off of your path.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
this whole thing is to reclaim
Yes.
your original self, your
Yes.
original soul.
Yes.
And
Rewriting
so
your story.
He comes on and talks about that. We had when he released the book, I got a whole we could talk for a long time. Maybe we'd do some more. When I first started working with him, he was telling me about writing this book, and once again, I was like, "How do I stay sober tomorrow?
Right.
Stop it!"
Right. Too much.
Because I didn't ever say any of that out
Right,
loud, but
right.
in my head, I'm talking all that to me,
Right.
And at one point, he said something. He goes, "Hey, man, I got this one chapter of this book ready. I would like you to read it.
Uh-huh.
Don't tell anybody because I don't want to necessarily let it out to everybody."
Right.
And I thought, man, what an honor
Right.
that he'd been doing this. Because by this time, I'd realized how much time and how much effort he was putting into this piece of work of his.
Yeah.
Was like, that's his
Yeah.
creative outlet element as he
Yes.
writes.
Yeah.
And so I started reading it, and I read it in 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper in manila folders,
Oh,
chapter
wow.
by chapter. It was almost like
Wow.
we'd meet at some place, and he'd hand me a new folder. I'd
Yeah.
hand him the old one, and then he wrote it and he tuned it up, and I think I was through it. I read it 3 different times,
Wow.
just doing that. And
Yeah.
it kind of helped edit. Find typos and
Yeah.
not really
Proofread.
and things didn't fly right. I'm going again. Who am I to be doing that? But I
Right,
do
but
know
it's another
that
set of
certain
eyes.
things that you meant to say she and it says he.
Right. Right.
But any other kind of things, and then it would come out, and we did a podcast when he released the book when it came out. And I don't want to say that thing finally, because once he started talking about it, everybody's like, "When's it coming out? When's it coming out? When's it coming out?" He's like, "It'll come out when it comes out."
I don't know that part yet.
I don't know that answer.
We'll both get to find out.
Yeah. And so it did, and so we're doing this thing like that, and I have the last manuscript
Oh,
under
wow.
my dresser in my bedroom. So I feel like I need to vacuum pack it up or do something with it. 'Cause
Very
I really do
cool.
think it's offering tools. There's all these tools. When I go to yoga, obviously when people come into recovery, they're seeking.
Yep.
They're seekers.
Something. Yep.
They're looking.
Yep.
They're sniffing around.
Yeah.
Well, God ain't going okay. Maybe in here there's something I can use, or
Right.
something. And the same thing. I saw that in the yoga teacher training.
Yep.
I was watching. I'm looking around. I'm going,
Yep.
these people are just seeking. They're looking.
Yes.
They're looking for whatever's next.
Yes.
Some of them have no idea. That's why they're here.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
they think they're here to
They
learn
think
to
they
teach
want
yoga.
Yeah, they think it's going to their career move. Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't, again, that feels a little arrogant to like put myself there, but I know that.
No.
I see that, and I know that's what that is, and I
Yep.
feel that energy of
Yep.
where you're at. Because
Yep.
when I walk in and meet people today, it
Yep.
doesn't take me long to assess.
Right, right. And that's what I mean. They all were wonderful, successful people. I use that word loosely, successful, because that's, but it's the personal development work that we started delving into. I realized because they were all able to go and have a glass of wine after, on Sunday night after two
Yep,
12-hour
yep,
days of yoga
yep,
too. And
yep.
I did not do that because I wouldn't have shown back up. But it was really cool to me, and it helped me too recognize that I wasn't so damaged or messed up, and and I don't know. It just, I got to tell you, my experience. I had done yoga, but not a lot. I had never been to 502. I'd never done hot yoga, which I know it's not technically hot, but it's hot.
It's hot.
It's hot.
It's not what most people think of. There's
yeah.
a paradigm or whatever. There's a particular spot that Bikram yoga is what people mostly are talking about when they say
think hot,
yoga.
right? And that's like 100. And so, but I had read. It came up, and I started reading about the teacher training, and that voice. You need to do this. You need to do this. And the first night when they had us all get up and tell why we're here or whatever, I'm like, well, I've never been here. They all thought I was fucking crazy. Who is this crazy woman? And hardest thing I've ever done, probably physically, because it kicked my ass.
It does.
And I wanted to quit every weekend. I wanted to quit, but I was invested financially, and I'm not a quitter.
Yeah.
And so I knew I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a reason. And I got it. I got the personal development, but that's where my meditation practice really, because in my recovery, I looked at a meditation as reading the daily reflection every morning. That was my meditation. You know what I'm saying? And that was fine.
For a little bit it was.
But it was fine. But I was ready and so I learned meditation. But the last day of teacher training, we did a meditation. I might cry when I talk about this. I don't know. I had told the story of me and my mother so many times from so many different angles. And in that last meditation, my mother and I were on a mountaintop holding hands like this, spinning, just spinning and laughing. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. It was, it was just pure joy. And I promised her I would never talk about her from a victim stance again, ever. I would share our story in ways that might be helpful or to give insight from a perspective, but I would never tell it from a victim stance again. And so much happened in that. And I felt like if that was the only reason I spent this money and did this 12 weeks of hell, it was worth it. But what has happened since that is I don't teach yoga, but as an empath and as an introvert, I don't like going and working out in a room full of other people. So I do my own yoga practice. And because I have the training, I'm able to do it safely and effectively. So I have a sacred room in my dream home that I just, I'm blessed to have this. I say that my dream home because I didn't even dare to dream about it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it wouldn't have been in my radar. And I have this sacred room, and I have my yoga mat and the big window with sweet maple right outside of it. And I go up there in the early AMs when it's still dark and light a candle, and I do yoga. And it is, some days I do the whole flow, and other days I don't do much, but it
Same
is,
That's exactly what,
yeah, it's,
to strengthen my home practice was one of my motives
yeah.
for doing it was,
Okay. So you already did yoga when you did the teacher training?
Yeah, I've been going for a couple years,
Yeah.
maybe for a little while. Yeah, that a girl that I was seeing had tricked me into going to yoga, and she took me to there's 12-step, combined 12-step.
Yeah.
Y12.
Y12SR. My friend taught that.
Rebecca.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's whose class I went to the very first time.
Okay. Yeah, I taught that for her when she would be out. I would stand in for her.
wonder
Not
if I met
taught
you
it, but
then.
You don't look familiar, and I think I would recognize your
think so
energy.
too, but,
I think I would recognize your energy.
Yeah, I remember some people coming through at times, but
I only did it like 2 or 3 times because that was another thing. I never thought I would ever get to teach at 502 Power Yoga because you had to do so many hoops.
Right.
And when Rebecca asked me to sub for her and I was at 502, I was like, look at me, I'm teaching at 502 Power Yoga.
a friend of mine who has dating whenever I broke in that house and did this stuff, and she had went on and she, for my birthday one year, she said, I want to do something for your birthday, and I want you to tell me yes. You just got to trust me, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, and that's very, very hard. And it's like a week out, I'm like, well, you at least got to tell me what to wear.
Yeah,
Tie on.
Right.
She said, just wear sweats and a t-shirt, or shorts and a t-shirt.
I was going to say sweats.
Sweats, shirt. But the Y12 wasn't hot.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it's not hot.
But she did say shorts, and it was August. My birthday's in August.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was tough, but I went and I got in the car, met her at her house, and we went and we drove and we parked, and she got in the trunk and started getting yoga mats out, and she was right.
You wouldn't have
some
went.
way to go, but now I'm stuck here.
Oh, I'm committed.
And sometimes that ego thing, like you said, to work for you, like that. Like I'm not a quitter. I'm not, the same thing. There's times when I was going, fuck this yoga training bullshit.
Right? That's how I hurt my shoulder because I was determined. I used to do CrossFit. So I was like, I will do every
I would do all of it.
Yeah, chaturanga. I will do every chaturanga. And I blew out my shoulder, so I was like really wanting to quit then.
But I felt as another one was, man. She took me in there and we're sitting there and
Yeah.
I don't remember. I said in my second year of recovery, I guess.
Yeah.
And I have a really solid teacher, so I was pretty solid at when I'm 2 years in, man.
Yeah.
And I got a really good teacher, and I walk in there and I sit down and we talk about 12-step stuff, and the yoga just touched me. There was something my body said yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but I was still, so I just go to that every Sunday for a while.
Yeah.
And then I had an opportunity, and man, that's a whole nother story, and they've heard it. But I had an opportunity to go to Japan right after I was on home incarceration for a year. I was on probation for a year.
Yeah.
And I usually used to travel for my work a lot, and they never asked me to travel during that time. I always envisioned this vision. They'd say, can you go? And I'm like, no, I can't travel. And they're like, why not? And I was going to pull my pant leg up and point to my ankle bracelet.
Right.
Well, that's why. But they never knew I had it.
Wow.
Never needed to know. And 10 days after, I started this. I don't want to get to it, but I think you'll get the gist of it. They were playing. I got put on a team. We were supposed to travel, and it never happened. I was supposed to go to Japan, and I was on probation. I talked to my probation officer. She said, probably not.
Yeah. It's probably not a good idea.
But we'd have to get the judges it's okay for that.
Yeah.
And I didn't really want to do that. Well, it got pushed out. And 10 days after I was off probation, I was on a plane to Japan. We went to Nagasaki, Japan, and on that Friday night, I'm standing there. You were talking about, I don't know why it pinged me, but you were talking about that meditation and spinning with your mom.
Yeah.
Same kind of vibe, but I'm with these guys. I'll go to this mountaintop in Nagasaki. There's this, you take a gondola up to the top of it. There's another one thing I was just drawn.
Yeah.
And I was going, and the guy said, what are you doing tonight? And I said, I'm going up there.
I'm going up there.
And they're like, how are you going to get there? I said, I'm going to go that way.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you know? No.
Nope.
We'll figure it out. Yeah. Can I go? Like, yeah, you want to go? You can go. I'm on my timeline, though.
Right. Right.
I'm not screwing around, stopping at the beer joints on the way there.
Right. Yeah.
And went, and I'm up there by myself with 4 other people.
Wow.
But I'm standing up there, and 2 weeks ago, I had to ask the state to leave permission to leave the county. Mm-hmm. And the sun is setting over the Japanese Ocean behind me.
Wow.
And the port city of Nagasaki is actually, after fact, I found out it's like in the top 3 nightscapes in the world, like behind like Monaco and I can't remember, Hong Kong or something. I can't.
Yeah.
And you're looking down on that, and it looks like stars coming alive in the bottom of this valley.
Above as below. Yeah.
And I'm standing up there, and I'm like just like totally overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. I had to ask permission to leave the county.
And
I'm standing on top of this mountaintop. I'm on this mount. I'm on the literal mountaintop.
Right.
In this beautiful spot. And it
Isn't
was
it
just
amazing?
like, wow. It's another miracle, this stuff.
Yep.
I went to a AA meeting in Japan.
Yep.
I had a great time that week. I had an unbelievable one of those days that will live in my memory forever, when I toured started in a Confucian temple, meditating in the morning. and made my way through all Nagasaki runs on cable cars,
Right.
with the sparky.
Oh,
above
wow.
it on I mean, the real.
The old school.
It was dark and sparks are flying off the wire.
Wow.
And I made my way south to north and stopped, and my day ended at the Nagasaki Ground Zero area, and man, and that energy up there, and the
Wow.
heaviness of what that felt like up there. And that day was just magical. And
Yeah.
it was all my,
Yep.
and people were going, "Can I go with you?" And I'm like, "You can
Yeah,
go
but
with
you-
me, but
yeah.
you're really not
You're
gonna
not
be
with me. Yeah, you
but-
can go, but you're not with me.
So it was just unbelievable. And then that evening, I stopped at AA meeting up
Yeah.
the road, and I had an AA meeting with there's 8 or 9 other Japanese people that hadn't.
Yeah.
When I walked up, I said AA, and he's like. Yeah. That's all this emblem that he had. He was smoking a cigarette outside the
Right,
church,
drinking coffee, smoking a cigarette.
and I
That's
was
you.
like, and I walked up, and he kind of went, and I said, "Is this AA meeting?" And he goes, "AA." He couldn't talk in meeting. And I
Right,
said,
that's
"Yeah."
the only
And
word
he
we have in common.
puts out his cigarette because they're really helpful if you just
Aw.
they're very standoffish and give you your space, man. But the
Yeah.
minute you ask for some help or
They're
something, man,
there.
they will bam.
Yeah.
And come on in, give me a pair of pair of size 6 sandals because you take your shoes
Yep.
off when I got size 12 feet. And,
Yep. Yep.
and as I walk, he's going to go behind me, so he walks me into this room, and as I walk into that room, they're all sitting around the table, and you can
Oh,
all see
wow.
they're looking at me like. Wrong place,
Wrong place.
and
Oh,
he's,
my gosh.
And he's going, and I hear him saying, like, to me, he's going, "It's okay, he's cool,
He's safe.
he's cool,
He's one of us. Yeah, he's one of
And
us.
then you see their smiles light up, because they're like, "Oh, how cool is this?"
Yes,
And we had an
yes.
AA meeting, man, and I couldn't understand a word they said, and they couldn't understand a word I said, and it didn't matter.
Didn't matter. Yep.
And,
Yep.
traded a book with a guy, still got it in there where I got the
Yeah.
12 steps and 12 traditions, all the stuff, the ratings and
That's
stuff
so
in
cool.
Japanese.
That's so. I
Just
love
so many
that.
different things, and I'd like to go on with these stories on what's happened. But it's that
Yeah.
you stand there dancing with your mom in your meditation made me think of
Yeah,
that
mountaintop.
that, those moments that just like are forever burnt in.
A moment of clarity, especially when you've spent so much time drilling at the problem and then suddenly realizing it wasn't a problem ever, and that she never was the problem. I spent my whole life, if I'd had a different mother, I would have turned out so different. Well, yeah, I would have, but that's not what I chose. I believe we choose our mothers, and I don't believe we always choose them for what they can teach us. Sometimes it's for what we can teach them, and sometimes it's karma, and sometimes it's all different kinds of stuff. So we try to box everything in and say, this is how it is. The mother needs to do this, and and it's like, oh, and because she didn't fit the culture's mold, she was rejected as a mother, and I honor her as my mother and celebrate her in so many ways. Yeah, and I love being her kind of crazy. It's all of I have an altar of my ancestors, of my mothers and grandmothers and daughters, because there's been so much to heal in those relationships, generational. And as having twins, that's been part of my mission, is to heal generations. With what I do, it's healing generations forward and generations forward and generations back, and it's been a wonderful undertaking. I'm grateful now. I'm getting tired. Can you tell?
Yeah.
My energy's starting to.
It's a big outpouring of energy. I never realized.
Yeah. I've had a wonderful time.
Took
It's
me a
not that
little
I'm
bit to
drained.
understand.
I don't feel drained. Yeah.
Believe me. I
Yeah.
understand that
I don't want
completely,
it to
'cause
come
I
like
didn't
that.
understand what was going on here for a while.
Yeah.
When I'd have that.
Yeah, that sudden
dump
feeling like.
afterwards and that after thing, and then
Yeah.
I started realizing what, that whole thing had awareness about what was going on with this, and
I think spirit tells me too, like, okay, you've said enough. Shut up now.
yeah, it's kind of like this eye thing and all
Yeah.
that. And it says,
When I used
okay,
to
we're
give my
good.
talk, I would know when I'd start rambling. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of being told it's time to shut up now. My ego's talking and not.
Yeah, and I love
Yeah.
that. And the yoga teacher handed me another statement, taught me another one that I feel like I'm complete in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like,
I'm
is that
complete,
is that all you
yeah.
got? No, or and you hear
Do you
people
feel
end their thing.
complete?
I am. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Like, surely you got more than that, don't you?
Yeah.
But I'm complete right now.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah. So it's fun. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been perfect.
Isn't it fun? Mm-hmm. I mean, it is. I just enjoy it, and
Yeah.
every time I come here, I find it.
For my first experience on a podcast, you have put me at ease. You have been very easy. It's been very easy. So thank you. Which I didn't expect anything less, because, I felt I was supposed to be here.
Yeah. Well, I like that. Especially, and there's a compliment. And the other thing is, like, I had a guest not long ago who had never, he just doesn't even know what this is. And he goes,
Yeah.
I had no idea what a podcast was going to be, but he said, anything that I might have thought, this is completely different.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I like better. Like, when I take somebody through the work, one of the best compliments is that, like, they've been exposed to some of this before.
Yeah.
And this is completely different than what
Yes.
I thought it was going to be.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I feel that way when people come to me for a session and don't know what to expect,
Yeah.
or they've been to someone, because I used to work under the title of psychic medium when I came out of the psychic closet, and I don't work under that title anymore, although what I do does involve spirit communication. I don't like those titles for myself. But it would be, people would come not knowing what to expect or expecting something that they'd had experienced before. And what I do is, it's all what I do. I learned not to try to do what other people are doing, because initially I would go and try to imitate because I thought that was the right way. And I found show up as you, and I have integrity and I'm authentic and I practice what I teach, and I don't like to say the work. I think work is consistent effort over time. So I do that, and like you said, when you're working with people, I don't do it for the results, but when you get feedback of the results, and you've just been the instrument at that time in that person's life, and it's like, wow, thank you. I've cleared myself to be an instrument. You put me where you want me to be. I leave cards or Post-its that say inspirational things in public bathrooms, because I feel like it's a fun game for me. I'm like, okay, Spirit, I'm going to leave the message, and you get to decide who sees it, who gets it. And it's just fun for me. So there's no ego. I don't get to see the outcome. I don't get to say, oh, I left that for you. But it gives me, I feel like I'm allowing myself to be an instrument. And that's what you're doing by just creating this space. You're holding space, allowing people to bring themselves to the microphone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay, you.
Well, thank you. I'd have never. Yeah.
Who would have thought, right?
Who'd have thunk? Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
It is. It's just a number of blessings and different things I get to do today.
Yeah. And things you can do, because you can choose to not do any of this, or you can choose to do it. You can choose. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, that's how you get to choose.
You get to choose.
So, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
I
you.
think we could do that's what and I've been having some people back and doing some different things, so I'm always open to that also.
Okay.
Because I just enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know a lot of people,
that's like
but
really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like you. I mean, we probably could do this again easy.
Yeah,
And probably
you
not
can
a lot
tell
of
I like to
repeat
talk.
material, and there's just a lot to be shared out
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah.
who knows when, again, I feel like I'm being called to send this out in the universe, and because there's some people out there who need to hear it.
Yep.
And
That's
the
what
rest
I
of it's
started
not up
having
to me,
people telling me. I'm always been an introvert, and I would not share. I wouldn't talk or share my thoughts because I feared being misunderstood.
Right, yeah.
Now I'm in a place where I don't seek to be understood.
Yeah.
I don't need you to understand me. So I've had people say you need to share. You need to tell, because my insights are different. A lot of times it's the opposite of what others the majority are thinking, and I would just keep my mouth shut. And now I'm learning that I need to not to make a stand, but to support others. Apparently, I'm just finding it's what I need to do. So for whatever reason, same with drumming and singing, I've come to understand that people enjoy hearing my voice with the drums, so I get out of the way and not worry if I sound okay or, oh, my throat's dry. I don't worry about any of that. Just do it.
Yeah. Right.
It'll land the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
We've had rain. We've had
It started raining a little
sunshine.
bit. Now the wind's all blowing.
I know.
I
It's a
told you,
beautiful
one of my
day.
very first ones, I had one of my first guests was a sponsee, and it was in the fall, and the acorns were falling out of that
Oh,
big oak
fun.
tree. It sounded like rifle shots.
I bet.
And I was in there. That's one of the first ones where I'm sitting here trying to clip them all out.
I have a
And it's
fountain
like,
in
you can't begin to clip all those. I just threw up my hands and said, you know what? They're just going to have to hear it.
let it
I got coon
go.
dogs next door that have seemed to have been pretty quiet today. Sometimes they're very vocal, and that's the thing about these microphones. They pick up stuff that's that outside stuff. But this is not a sterile environment. This is authentic. This is just the
Yep.
way it is. It's
This
out here in the
is-
wood
this
shop.
is
Sometimes
live.
the compressor kicks on. Sometimes the board falls over. Sometimes.
I'm surprised nothing like that happened today.
Yeah, it's been relatively calm, I guess you could say. No big
I have a
things that
fountain in I call it my crystal room because it's got shelves with crystals, and I've got an altar in there where I meditate. And the fountain, I've noticed, I'll leave people voice recordings on Messenger sometime instead of typing. I'll leave it, and you hear the fountain. And I called my friend. I said, I promise I was not peeing when I left that message because I played it back, and you hear the trickle in the background. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah.
I was not in the bathroom.
I always close this thing up with 2 lines.
Okay.
Used to be, Happy gave me this, one of them. The other one come out of a thing, and then it goes into this juice concept up here of like having a blast in your recovery. And it means like, because I do believe that essential teachings, and when Bill says in there to continue to improve your conscious contact, I can put a period at the end of that sentence.
Yep.
My conscious contact.
Yep.
Sometimes
Period.
that's with you.
Yes.
Sometimes that's with my father. Sometimes that's with nature. Sometimes that's with the blades of grass in my backyard.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's with this piece of wood that I'm working on. But I continue to take the actions to improve the conscious contact of down here in this space.
Yeah.
And so that juice, there's a daily reader I get, and it says, if you're not having a blast in your recovery, it's your own damn fault.
Yep.
Because this is available to all.
Yes.
It really is. And Happy inadvertently gave me this when he told me one day when I was bouncing around and playing with this thing. And today I look back on it, it was a night before a relapse. I didn't know that at the time.
Right.
It's going to be.
Right.
But he kind of shook his head and got a little exasperated with me and told me, he said, thing is, he said, you must participate in your own recovery. And today I thank people, and it's become like a little buzz thing. So I always say this. I say thank you, thank the listeners, thank everyone, thank the universe for allowing me to participate in my recovery in this manner today.
Yes.
Peace out.
Peace out. Thank you.
Always tried to be just who they wanted. Always tried to do everything they said. Only did the things they would approve of. Lock away all your dreams inside your head. Year after year you try to be a good girl. They never failed to point out when you were bad. Stuck to the program like a robot. Became a trophy for mom and dad. But inside you want more. Everything you've been waiting for. Looking for that open door. So every day when you're praying, and your heart just keeps saying, let go and fly. Let go and fly. Spread your wings to the sky. Let go and fly. Ever since you was a little boy, they told you, suck it up and be a man. It's time